Too much production. Ah. I didn't even smoke weed. I stayed sober and I still can't get it done. Where's my Twitter account? It's like 9,000 windows open. There we go. Better. All right, so we're gonna do this live, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully y'all can hear me because I have no idea what's going on with my current setup. What is going on, internet? I'm Mono. This is Night at the Races revamped version 2.0.
Let's go.
We are back. We are on Kick, on Twitch, on YouTube. But if you are watching this, please come on over to Kick. This will be the dominant platform here in the near future, whether MJ wants to believe it or not. But that's the way we're heading here in the world. And speaking of which, we are joined tonight by one of my favorite people here on Photo Finish Spaces, Mr. MJ Gaming. What's going on, buddy?
Hey Mo, thank you so much for that nice intro. Yeah, I got to get my kick working. That's my big thing troubling me lately. But happy to be here tonight.
Yeah.
Super excited for my first Night at the Races stream with you.
Hell yeah, brother. I know you got your own thing going on during the week. I do appreciate you taking some time here on a Saturday to come hang out, call some races. We got some championship races today, and it's going to be the last week before we get into the Derby. And I'm going to talk about that here coming up, obviously. But for anybody that may not know who you are and may tune in later on here on the VOD, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your time in photo finish, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so I love just the discovery in Web3 games. I also am very passionate about education. So I've got a website, mjinformatics.com, with some tools on there for various Web3 games and talking about how to hopefully make the most of the money that you've spent on your horses, characters, players, whatever it may be. And yeah, I've gotten photo finish probably right around or right before the first beta and participated in that, liked that a lot, had some issues with the wallet hack that kind of just took me out of the Web3 space, and in turn photo finish at that time. So after that time away, came back and started building and haven't looked back.
Awesome, man. And I know it's a little redundant because we did have you on the official Third Time Thursday show. And I feel like I just asked you the same exact intro question. So that kind of makes me a very rinse and repeat type of host, I guess. But we do have some different types of people that come into these shows as opposed to the Thursday show. So just figured I'd cover all of our bases. You did mention some other types of projects, Web3. And again, sorry to hear about the wallet issue. I mean, that seems to get most people. I did get drained myself. It was on a alternate wallet with MetaMask, and I kind of was going a little crazy with it, trying to get those free mints and really things that were too good to be true.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew I was setting myself up for, something catastrophic eventually if I kept on poking the bear. But yeah, man, I know all too many stories, man, of just the wrong link, the wrong smart contract, and the wrong loophole. And yeah, that could sometimes, like I said, be people just checking out of the whole game, like you said. But we are glad you came back, obviously.
Thank you.
As someone like me, I came in let's say like October, maybe late September. I was eyeing the horses. They were still up at like 1,000 when I first kind of came across the game. Because obviously, like everybody else, I play Zed Run, and then I started looking into D Race, and I was looking into like Win NFT horses, and basically every other game that you hear mentioned when it comes to NFT horse racing, except Photo Finish. Um,
Interesting.
which is what I think, people like me and you really need. Like that's the problem we need to solve, right? Like we need to provide enough content, get it across the board. Obviously, or ironically, the name of your show.
Yep.
Um, love that name, by the way. Love the name across the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, especially for people who like to throw gamble, wagers in. Like, yep, throw it in $5 across the board. That it's relevant.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, it's just I don't know, man. I feel like when people talk about horse racing games and NFT blockchain gaming, nobody ever talks about photo finish. And then when I show it to them, they all just say the same thing. Like, how is nobody talking about photo finish? Right? I
Yeah.
mean, is that something It's like look at the graphics compared to any other game. Hands down, the best looking game. You will not fool anybody with these other games. That's not real life. Um,
I It's
after me
funny.
and my uncle kind of got sorry, go good.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got forget. I was gonna go on a rant, but yeah.
It's funny you talk about the graphics like that because I showed my winning race with Hawk and I to some friends the other day. Just pulled it up on my phone, full screen landscape, and they're like, "Oh, when was this race?" And I was like, "Oh, it was this morning." They're like, "What? No way!" And they thought it was a real race. They didn't realize it was a game. And you're talking about how the just the presentation of the game, the way it's structured and built out. I'll talk to some of my friends about this who really aren't in the crypto space, and they'll kind of roll their eyes a little bit. But then I talk about the way that Third Time has gone about creating the game, a little bit about their history, and then they kind of turn around and become much more interested. They feel there's more, for lack of a better word, not that other games don't have this, but just more legitimacy. There's more meat to this, I guess is a better word than legitimacy.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you probably heard me talk about my syndicates. Those are the people that like to email me and contact me on a daily basis to make sure that Fib is doing his job and posting 700 Derby claimers. I mean, allowances and 600 handicaps.
Sure.
Um, which, by the way, I was pleasantly surprised to see them talk about that last night and be like, yeah, we needed lower prices on the races because, maybe we can kind of dive into that with you a little bit. What is your opinion on the current race fees? Because I was a big advocate, for like basically your maidens were always like 350 to roughly like $6 until you got to the A+ range. They got up a little bit with the S
Yeah.
minuses, but basically, you're bringing people into a game. They're getting horses that are $300. They're racing for like 350 to $5, and then boom, they get lucky, win a race, and now it's 20 minimum.
Yeah. I
Like every
agree.
person I know messaged me and they were like, "Yo, I want to sell my horse if that's how it's going to be."
Yeah, it has to be gradual. It has to be gradual in terms of, in my opinion, just competition, entry fees, all of it. Yeah, I definitely agree with you that that was way too big of a jump, and it's nice to see some lower fees pop up now.
Yeah, and to be fair, because I mean, people could be like, "Well, Mo just wants to turn this into Zed or some cheap dollar bargain game." I never want to see dollar races or $2 races on
Sure.
photo finish. I think, like I said, I never complained about the maiden prices.
Yeah.
I was always 100% on board with the maiden fees. I said, you know what, that's reasonable. You know what I'm saying? We want to show that these horses do have value, right, to people coming in, and not just racing for $1.99. And like I said, but if you do get lucky and get a win, it shouldn't cost you $20 a rip, And I've talked to people like Lacey and I think Latude is another one who's hit me up recently. Everyone's running it off preference now. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
instead of waiting for that perfect race at $20 because you have to,
Yeah.
now it's like, you know what? 700 Derby, what is that? Like $9 roughly. All right, you know what? I'll run two horses. One will be an ideal race, and one will be kind of like, he likes dirt, but I'll throw him on turf.
Yeah.
Or, he likes to go left, I'll throw him right. I would never do that at $20 a clip. I don't know
Uh,
about you, but
Never.
that's pricey.
Yeah, and it's at that point too. I think it aids in. I like the way you said that because I feel it aids in discoverability as well. You're able to kind of branch out a little more, experiment a little more, see where things fall, check out fleet figures, performance, speed, all of that. And you're taking more chances that you may not have taken before. I just think that's
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
I think that's what it's all about. Because I mean, look at horse racing, right? I mean, like they talked about it last night too. Like the amount of claimer races in the United States is roughly like 70%, right?
Yeah,
And on top of that, it's like when these horses, break their maiden and they get out. Sometimes you'll find real life horses that normally would run, on a wet track on the dirt. But hey, you know what? We'll throw them on some turf. We're
yeah,
down here anyway. Real horse racing, you have different expenses and fees to worry about. Like if we travel with our horse, it's going to cost us $5,000 in expenses. So maybe we'll leave him down here in Tampa Bay and we'll run him on the turf instead. Instead of kind of relocating the entire horse. We don't have that situation here. You know what I'm saying? But am I wrong here? Right? Like we put ourselves in a much better situation, especially during the downtime coming up, that we'll be able to keep these horses running. Because again, $7, $8 for a race, you know, if you're hitting the board here and there and losing, two, $3, kind of like
right.
a slot machine, right? The RTP.
Yeah,
They say if your RTP from a slot machine is 92%, they're taking $8 out of every 100. So eventually over time, they will wipe you dry. Like, don't get it twisted. You
yeah,
are going to lose, but they're going to give you that RTP back along the way. And I feel like I know this isn't a slot machine and it's not a pure gamble, but they still have to kind of play that game with you of like, all right, you know what? Let's make it reasonable. Let's not take $20 a clip for every race because if people have, 5, 10, I mean, shit, I got 16 horses in my barn. Um, I do have 4 syndicates, so it kind of alleviates a lot of my expenses personally.
sure.
Um, but it can definitely add up. So, and most people I've spoken to behind the scenes on the air, like most people tend to agree that where the prices were just way too outrageous for the times that we're getting ready to head into at least.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I also think the other side of that, you have to keep the prices. eh, You said you didn't want to see $1, $2 races. Like you have to keep the prices above that because if I'm going to spend however many hundreds or thousand on a horse for it to run a $2 race every 24 hours, if that, it just doesn't make sense. And the perceived value of that horse, I think becomes greatly diminished when you do that. So I think we're in a just kind of eyeballing it like a really nice sweet spot right now.
I would agree. I would agree. But now, do you think? Because I know the second we start dropping prices on claiming races, and the second that we start again devaluing horses, right? People with big bags are obviously going to have an issue with that, and rightfully so. I'm not saying
Sure.
a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'm Mo of the people, skeleton of the people. Like I fight for the the small guy, right? And that is true. But trust me, I get it. Like I get people that are invested heavy. They've put the time, they've put the money in behind it. So big changes like that could really, hurt their bottom line. And I get that. I don't want to see that happen. But we also kind of need to be realistic, right? Like we are moving into the dark days of racing here. The next
Yeah.
60 days, when horses shut down. I'm saying October. What do you think? They were saying like November into Thanksgiving. Maybe they're right, but I'm thinking October is when we'll finally start to see like racing action that we've seen, recently.
My initial thought
Disagree?
was like late September, but I don't dislike October. I worry how, and this may sound silly, but I worry how the population, how active the population will be come November, December, just because it is holiday time. And if people will slow down a little bit just because of that at all. Is that silly to say?
I think in a normal retail environment, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. But I think when you're talking about the world of degenerates, like
Very good
it's,
point.
uh, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel
Yeah.
like these people could be like, oh, it's holiday season, more time to get twisted and have some drinks and play my horses, or now I can go to my family's house and sell them on some horses, right? Like the same way that remember. Remember during the big crypto crazy run, like it
That's
was
true.
during that Thanksgiving, right? Everyone was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm selling Dogecoin to my grandma this at Thanksgiving dinner." Like they're selling everybody on the dream, right? And I don't know though, man. I feel like degenerates will just constantly spend money if we're given the opportunity. And the ecosystem that Ian and everybody prepared for us, as long as we give them the benefit of the doubt to just let this thing ride out, like it's got to be ride or die. Like we can't half-ass this, and a month down the road be like, oh, this isn't working. Like we're in it. Like this is
Yeah.
it. We have the horses we have, and I feel like we just have to go into the dark days now and say, hey, you know what? Start buying up those half star preference claimers because we're going to be running them. I want to start doing claiming events and just have, Fib help us out and, load up on claiming races because no one else is going to be racing for the big races. There might be some outliers, I'm sure, but, for the most part, it's not going to look like what it looks like right now when you're kind of just perusing through the schedule.
I love how expected and known this is within the community. It's not like oh my gosh, all of a sudden the population just absolutely goes down to nothing. We all know it's coming. We're all preparing for it. The team knows it's coming. It'll be an interesting few months for sure, but I just appreciate how expected it is.
And that comes from, people like me and you, and people like Doughboy and people like
Yeah.
Uh, even like Brody over on Kick. He was a newcomer in. He streams the races every now and then, and he
Nice.
tells his audience the same thing. Like you can't. I don't know if you've watched. I don't know if you watch much TV, but there's a show called Hello Tomorrow. It's a brand new show, Apple TV. Great show. Basically, it's like a retro futurism show. It's like Fallouty type, where it's like
Oh,
robots in
okay.
an apocalyptic type world.
I like this.
But oh, dude, it's a great show, man. If you have
Check it
Apple
out.
TV or any means of, yeah,
Yeah.
awesome show. And the premise of the show is they're selling real estate on the moon. And if you read into the research of the show as to why it was written and made, they're basically ripping and making fun of the crypto industry because it's just the whole selling real estate on the moon and blah, 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 blah. And you see a lot of similarities, intertwined into the show, into the writing. It's really good, great acting. Um, but anyway, yeah, I would definitely check it out. Shout out to Doctor Strange, by the way, over there in YouTube chat. What's going on, Doc?
I'll check that out. That
Um,
sounds great.
yeah,
Sounds like a
but I
show I'd
feel
love.
like if yeah, I've recommended it to quite a few people, and they've all come back and said, you know what, good recommendation. I also tell them to watch, 90 Day Fiance and MILF Manor, and they're like, dude, I want my time back, right? But
What is
no, I feel
what is
like
MILF Manor? Is that the one where it's all the contestants' moms that come up?
so they told them that the premise was going to be a whole bunch of MILFs,
Yeah.
and then they sprung it on them that it was going to be they basically said the MILF's going to be on one show and the Sons are going to be on another. What they didn't tell them is that they were going to be on the same exact show.
Oh my
So it
god.
would have like the moms would all have to randomly get selected by the dude, the sons, to give them a massage. And then the mom like
Oh
really starts
no.
like, really starts getting into it. She's like, oh, such magical hands or whatever. And then like the camera
Oh.
pans up and it's her son. Oh my god, dude. It's like cringy comedy. If you like, you know what I'm saying? Just those awkward situations of laughing. It's just oh
Yeah.
my god, man. I do like that type of stuff, unfortunately, because I think scripted TV has just really gone downhill. Um, but that's probably a whole nother podcast or show. Um,
Reality's fun. I like reality shows.
oh, they're great. But my point about Hello Tomorrow, just to kind of come back full circle, it's up to people like me and you and anybody that's making content to sell the correct story. Like, don't paint the false narrative like most crypto projects where it's like, give me money now, I'm going to take care of you later type of deal. We've been talking about it on Night at the Races, and I've been talking about it on my own streams again since the day I got in. Horses age, horses have to retire. They cannot race and breed at the same time. They will not be on the track. So we will have dark days of racing. And maybe some people don't like me calling it that, but maybe we can embrace it and meme it and have some fun with it. And maybe it'll make the 60 days go by faster, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just like,
Yeah.
whoa, what do we do today? Let's twiddle our thumbs and, create ruckus in the Discord or, start attacking people. We don't need to do that, right? So
Absolutely.
I don't know, man. I think as long as we, paint the correct picture, we got Ian on board, running the show, and I have dealt with so many people over the years in all sorts walks of my life where like these guys run the show, and I look at them and I go, "How the hell are you still in business?" like, how the hell, and most of the time they don't last, that long, but it's like, how did you even make it this far type of deal? Look at Ian and look at his background and look at what he's doing. It doesn't surprise me one bit,
Absolutely. It makes
and I
sense.
know, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just it's all I mean, gaming background, big time experience coming together, built the games first, added on NFTs. Like it's backwards. I think you've said this before that it's not
Yep.
traditional, but it feels right. Like this is almost how it should be.
Yeah. The first time I said that to them was live on one of the first times I ever met them. And we were just having like a get to know you type conversation. And I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, you guys did this completely ass backwards. And like their eyebrows kind of rose up, like, was I getting ready to roast them like live on, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I was just trying to tell them, I'm like, listen, man, like every other project wants my money and I never see anything come of it.
Sure.
Whether it's a month, 6 months, some of these projects are a year, going on 2 years now, and it's like, man, like what does it really take, right? And I don't want to be that guy who sits here on my ivory tower, and it's like, well, I could do this in 7 days, and I can program this, and I can program that, because someone like you, we talked about your site, and I do want to make sure people are checking it out.
Thank you.
You know, I'm a very data driven person, right? And I love data comparisons. I love compiling data and creating spreadsheets, but I also know my limitations in this world. And I can do a lot of shit. What I cannot do is I cannot mess with APIs. I cannot build SQL databases, and I cannot sort that type of stuff with Python. I've tried. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm glad there's people like you around, that are knowledgeable in this stuff. Because again, this everything you plan on building out here, in my opinion, is absolutely necessary on top of what, Ian and those guys are trying to build on their site. Because they're not going to give us everything.
Yeah. And they give a lot. They give more than most projects. And I really like the way that they show it and present it. I think it's wonderful. And just I want to just try and give a different lens with which to view the same kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I'll make sure I post this in the YouTube chat as well for anybody that's hanging out over there. Um, what I wanted to ask you, I guess, would be a good question because I'm going to call some races if anybody's wondering. However, we have most of the championship races. We're kind of backed up here a little bit towards the end. And my horse is running. And if you guys know me, I don't call my own races because it's just a jinx. But even
Mm.
though I didn't call it, he still got his ass kicked. So that was
Oh
good.
no.
Yeah, oh, dude, I'm down. I'm down big. I was on a heater, and then
Yeah.
I feel like I just started like, I'm not gonna wait for the race, throw him in here. Now I'm screwed for the next 3 days because the correct race did come up, and now I just fell into like this weird loop of losing. Uh, I'm not even gonna
That
say how much I'm down this week because my girlfriend's within arm's reach of me right now playing Harry Potter.
nice. Great
But
game.
yeah, I can't sustain this, is what I'm saying. Um, yeah, it actually is a great game. I played through the tutorial. Um,
Nice.
She seems like she's digging it. You played it?
I haven't played it. I've watched a lot of gameplay and I have a bunch of friends that have played it. I want to, I just don't have the time right now to dedicate to that between content, photo finish, Diablo, way too much stuff going on right now.
Yep. I hear that. I own this game. I picked up Diablo. I think I told you I beat the campaign. All I do is open up After Effects or open up Photoshop, and I'm like, it's a time sink, dude. 12 hours later, 14 hours later. Even like the overlay that I have up here now, like I showed it to you earlier,
Yeah,
and I did it, and I'm like, man, it doesn't have my neon vibe to it, dude. I'm like, I got to bring this into After Effects. Let me throw some lighting through it. Let me throw some the bells and whistles, right?
I love it.
And thank you, man. I appreciate it. Um, so what I want to touch base with you, I guess, because I feel like when it comes to, AMAs and stuff like that, most of the time I tune in and I never really learn anything.
Yeah.
But every time I tune into one of your shows, I am absolutely blown away at the amount of data that my brain has to absorb. You know what I'm saying? Within the show. So maybe I'll ask you just a two-folded question. You can just go fill in the blanks.
Sure.
Why are you like that? And how good was that conversation with Ian Because
Oh
I
my
know you
gosh.
guys are kind of cut from the same cloth type of deal. Like you guys are both, very data driven individuals. So maybe talk about that discussion and how you appreciate that back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. So why am I the way that I am? I am just fascinated with learning, love learning. I've worked in and out of education for a while, and I know that, in particularly speaking to my interview with Ian, the first one, where there was kind of a just get to know you AMA, learn about the game kind of experience and conversation. I really wanted to try and provide something that was different because there are so many interviews where it's just you just sit down and it's okay, the same tired story over and over again. And I can't imagine that would be fun for Ian or any founder or anyone that's working on a project or anyone that I would have up. So I try and either throw in a personal question that I would have, or, in the case of Ian, uh, like I was really curious about his time at Madden. I heard in another interview in prepping for that he was involved with creating the hit stick. So I wanted to ask him more about
Mm-hmm.
that in Madden. And
Yep.
yeah, I just think that passion and love of learning gets me excited to do that research, to come up with these questions, to have these conversations because I get to learn about them. Then I get to talk to someone and learn even more about what I just learned about in the research phase. Kind of meta there, saying that out loud. But he was incredible. Very well spoken, very easy to talk to, more than willing to answer any question, talk about whatever topic, whether that be, past, present, future. Again, that's not an experience I've had with all creators, I'll say, that I've talked to. And it was just really, really nice. It felt like it flowed easy and didn't really feel like work. And I feel like that's how you're talking to someone good.
Yeah, and I like the way it started off with the breeding one, where he was like breaks out the bottle, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, we'll see how how this gets into it, or however long this goes." And
Exactly,
and that's the
exactly.
type of guy that you want sitting down at the table with you, right? Like, I mean, I know you're involved with the swoosh. No, sorry.
Swoops,
Oh my
yeah.
God, swoop. Sorry, swoosh is Nike. Sorry. Yeah, so I know you're involved with them. Your website has the marketplace. We spoke about that on the official show too.
Yep.
Um, so I mean, outside of I guess the swoops and photo finish, like, are there any like type of digital collectible platforms you mess around with? Are you like a collectible type of guy?
I'm a huge collectible guy. I collected Beanie Babies. I've collected sports cards my whole life. I think I have 70,000, upwards of 70,000 sports cards.
Yeesh.
I collect comic books. I don't have a big comic collection, but I've got a handful of rare covers signed by, Snyder and a bunch of those big guys like from Batman, New 52, that era, if you can even call it that time frame. Um, and yeah, if there's something I like, I dive in and go do it. In terms of NFT collectibles, the only one that I really got into was Top Shot, and I need to go look at that, revisit it. I know it's kind of gone down significantly because I got in right before it really took off. But I just love. I'm a big basketball fan. I've got a 10 pack of Milwaukee Bucks tickets for next season already locked up. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I may have to revisit
Bucks are fun
that.
to watch.
Oh
I'm
yes,
not a big basketball guy, but the Bucks are a fun team to watch.
love it. And so yeah, don't really do too much else collecting there. I know on your stream the other day, you're showing me the DC stuff, and that got me a little too excited to the point where I had to step away and literally force myself to not think about it because I knew I would spend my whole day, week, weekend, whatever on that. And now that we're talking about it again, I'm ready to pull up a tab.
Yeah, and I don't, and it's not really. I'm always people like, oh, they're trying to convert people again, but I'm always curious because, like, I'm an older dude. Like, I'm 41 years old. Hey, yo, Lacey, thank you so much for the 5 gifted over on Kick. Thank you so much,
Let's go,
guys. If you're in
Lacey.
chat, thank Lacey for that. Very awesome of Valkyrie there. Really, really great. She was on the show the other day on Thursday. Um, wow, awesome of you. Thank you so much. Shit, now I lost my train of thought. What was I even getting into?
That
Oh,
happens sometimes.
um,
Sometimes you just black
yeah,
out, as Lucy
and
knows.
yeah, but with the NFT collectibles, like
Yeah.
because I'm an older dude, right? And again, I'm like you, collected sports cards. I was a big comic book guy. I always like to tell people I was too busy playing sports, chasing tail, to really I was waiting for the look from my girlfriend there, to really mess around with comics and too much. But I did like the X-Men cartoon in the '90s.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
one of my favorites to watch. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I
That
can
was a
see
great
that.
theme
I can
song.
hear that. Oh, I love that.
But like, so to me, right? Like, I loved collectibles, and I always said, I wish I would have got my Ninja Turtles and kept them in the box. I wish I would have had my GI Joes. I wish I would have had this and that and etc. Right?
Yeah.
But then I look at digital collectibles, and we're at such like an early forefront of the game. And obviously, we had the crypto slide and NFTs because everybody, they're bored apes, they're profile pictures, very little utility. And they don't even call them NFTs anymore, even though they are, but they're digital collectibles, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, my question to you, because again, you're a very bright guy, and I think we talked about this on the Thursday show when you joined us. You, I feel like you have a rare trait, and I think we talked about this from your sports background when you were younger, where you have that rare trait of being able to take, defeat or take, something negative and again, learn from that mistake, not like, hide in a corner and have it beat you down to submission, right? Because I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, they get in a bad spot and they kind of hit this like a mudslide and they can't get out of it. But I
Yeah.
feel like someone like you, who again, you learn from the adversity. Like, is there a space? Is there a chance that digital collectibles, could be what physical collectibles are now, considering that the people getting into it are going to be, focusing primarily on digital. Because again, I feel like at 41 years old, I feel like I'm insane when I try to tell people about this shit, but
Sure.
like it just makes sense. Maybe I'm really out of it and I'm out of touch, but like, what do you really think about all that stuff with the collectibles, like the Marvel, Disney collectibles, the NFT comics, things with high value that are physical already? Do you think that could translate digital?
I think it could translate. I think because we are still early, we're going to see a lot of volatility with, pricing. And I don't want to do too much speculation there. Not financial advice, DYOR, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. But I think
I have
that,
an animation that pops up too.
thank you. That just the concept of it's the same thing. You're still collecting something, and because of the blockchain technology, it has scarcity to it. Then we have rarity on top of that. You were showing the different comic variant covers that were out the other
Yep.
day.
Yep.
And I think that's absolutely there. I think the thing that's missing right now, and maybe I just don't know, is presentation. If I have a rare, one of one Batman #1 digital comic, I want to be able to show that off, whether that's reading it, whether that's, a frame. I've got a picture next to me right over here. Like, it would be cool if
Yep.
I could have that. And I know there are frames out there and there are
Yeah.
some kind of cheap workarounds, but some of those are super, super expensive. But, if I have part of the reason why some people collect, watch some of these shows about memorabilia and they're all in these nice cases. They're, framed, put on the wall. It's I think that presentation for appreciation is what's missing right now because it's, I think, too many. You've got DC over here, you've got VV over here, you've got Top Shot over here. It's too fragmented right now, and I think that's hurting accessibility and access. So I think if you could just get a very easy um, presentation across multiple platforms, I think that would really do a lot for the space. And I think kind of get it going.
100% agree. Which is why I'm still kind of hanging on because I'm a huge, like some of my favorite people on the face of the planet, Mark Cuban, Elon Musk, and Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
Mainly because they all kind of go to the beat of their own drum. I know Rogan can kind of be a little out there, a little extreme for some people, but
sure.
he is, and what I appreciate is he's the type of guy that can take a step back. But I feel like when I'm getting crazy in my own life, sometimes I can just take that step back, like a third person perspective type of deal.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people can't do that. They get so caught up, in what's going on that they just can't really see it objectively. And that's so for those types of reasons, like those are my favorite types of people. And I feel like when they're all talking about, smart money makes money, follow the money, where's the money going? Even with all the crypto stuff, even with all the bullshit, I don't know if you saw this news, but Disney actually just the other day filed another patent for an NFT game with
Really?
wallet integration. Yeah, and this was filed. It was filed April 27th, but it was just gone public like 3 days ago. And it
Wow.
shows not on here, but there was a Twitter post basically highlighting the entire patent, showing it from top to bottom. How it works with the blockchain interaction and the NFTs and all this stuff, right? So what I'm sitting here saying is the NFTs are already here. The money is still pouring in to again build on these platforms, like you just said. We need because VB does have the VBverse coming, where you can put your comic books out in a showcase. You can have these, all these crazy lights and effects around your secret rares, and you could read them in augmented reality already right now on the app. Um, DC, you can read them, but that's about it. They're going to have
Mhm.
interoperability where you can just send it to MetaMask and stuff like that, and then put it on OpenSea, which will essentially give more value. People say I don't always agree with that.
Sure.
Um, so I mean, think of all these assets, right? And then pull them because right now you need your phone, right? And the
Yeah.
second you remove the phone as a viewer, it's a game changer.
Yep.
The second it's built into your windshield on your car, like Audi, Mercedes, BMW are doing, it's a game changer. The second it's built into your prescription glasses that you get, from your doctor, it's a game changer, right? So like the money is still going there. So these assets, they're going to be the assets that are being used. So that's why I tell people again, not financial advice, but I would never tell you, MJ, if you're like, hey, I like DC Comics, Mo, I'm not going to be like, all right, go buy Superman #1 right now. It's 11 grand for the legendary. I'm not going to tell you to
Jeez.
do that. What
Yeah.
I would tell you to do is if you're smart, and you are smart, make an account on Palm DC, verify your account, because 3 out of the top 4 Grail comics on DC have yet to be released. They
Wow.
only have Superman #1, Detective Comics 27, not out yet. Batman #1, first appearance of Joker, not out yet.
Cool.
And Action Comics #1, not out yet. So, you know, for $10, you can get access into those comic drops potentially, right? Like, that's not
Yeah.
me telling people to go in and buy the top of the market for the best things that are out, but it's speculative because these things they're going to come out. We know they are,
Right.
but they're not here yet. So that's what I kind of tell people when it comes to like the digital collectibles. But yeah, I just wanted to pick your brain on that. That's why I asked you earlier. I'm like, you want to talk about anything non PFL? Because I was just curious. Like I said, we had a few minutes before the race.
The
Because most days I feel like I'm losing my mind when I talk to people. I'm like, I don't actually believe this, do I?
You've gotta, and I think that's a big part of collecting. It's like collect what you like, collect what you're into. Don't do it because someone told you that this is the next new hot thing. If you understand it, you think you believe in it, and like, yeah, I've collected a few issues of like rare recent, or I'd say variant covers of Batman. And it's like, yeah, I like DC. I just saw the Flash movie, hated it. It was a waste of my time that I'll never get back. But I still
Oh
went.
shit.
And I'm still very intrigued by this. And I'm not doing because it's like, oh no, Mo said I had to do it. No, I like DC. I like blockchain technology. I think regardless, that's here to stay. And I think it's a really exciting time because you're seeing some of these, smaller grassroots projects start to go away, which isn't necessarily a good thing. I think there's some super fun projects out there that are still doing that. But now you're getting a lot of the misleading information, the misleading projects, just the hype for the sake of hype out along with that. And then in our coming, DC, third time, Disney. And because I think they believe in the technology.
Well, I think a lot of people do. I think there's a reason why California DMV is moving to the blockchain. I think there's a reason why insurance companies are moving to the blockchain. I
Yeah.
think there's a reason that banks are moving to the blockchain. I mean, there's a reason why. I don't. I don't know how much you really want to get into this copy. You can tell me to just leave it here, but the government's going to get into the blockchain because, in my opinion, the plan is to push out the U.S. dollar. And when the 7 nations that came up with the alternative digital currency now, they're trying to push out, our money worldwide.
Mhm.
So now we're going to come back and say, okay, so we basically devalue the actual dollar. We push blockchain technology. We create the, US currency dollar from the government. And now that's how people have their money. What does that allow them to do? That allows them to put expirations on the currency. So if they want to taper inflation, they can say, hey, you know what? You guys are holding way too much of that US currency right now. We're going to put an expiration date on that for February 1st. And if not enough people in this country spend that money, we're not going to turn the expiration off. So, you know what I'm saying? It basically forces people to not save money and start spending again, which would then stimulate the economy, not give the outlook, right? Because I mean, I don't really dox where I am all the time. People know I'm in New York, you know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
Long Island, but like, it's not too great out there in this world, man. Like, it's a crazy place right now. Like
Yeah.
growing up in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s, man, like this is a crazy place to be alive, you know?
Yeah.
But that's like my whole take on the blockchain. I think that's where we're heading. And I think that's a really scary thought to think that your currency could actually have an expiration date.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Well, what doesn't have an expiration date is Derby. So thankfully for that.
There you go.
We do have some bigger races here coming up. We'll start calling these.
I'm now in the DC
Yeah, like I
NFT
said, I just wanted to.
Discord, and I do have an account apparently.
Which one? The Palm NFT, Palm DC?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
So
like I
is
said, verify the account, and when they come out with the big drops, it's $10 to try to get in and snag a comic.
all right. So I see the flash is coming up in 2 days. Sorry, if we got the race, call the race. I don't want to cut you off
No,
there.
no, 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 no. We got 7 minutes.
Perfect.
So the way it is right now, this is actually a weird time to come in because it's a gated drop right now. So what's happening is they did a drop like a week and a half ago,
Hmm.
and depending on which one of the rarities you got you access to that drop related to the rarity. So, for instance, they dropped on Thursday. If you got the common, you went for the drop on Tuesday. If you got the uncommon, it dropped on Thursday. It was like a key almost. So
Okay.
the common unlocked a key to go for Tuesday's drop. So right now, we just did the uncommon. Now we're moving into the rare. So you have to own the rare slash number one multiverse something.
Yeah.
It's like a black cover. It's like $25 right now. So you have to own that before the cutoff date. I think it's 48 hours or 24 hours before the drop. And basically, it's like a gated drop. But that's not normally how it is. Normally, you show up at the drop time, you open up a bunch of tabs. I can fill you in on how that works and kind of guarantee you access. We call
Yeah.
it
I'd be
tab gate.
interested
You
in
just
getting
basically
in.
open up, yeah, you open up like 20 tabs and it doesn't screw you like other NFT projects. It has no idea you're on the same machine and gives you 20 different spots.
Wow. Jeez.
And they've yet to fix it. So we
They got to
use it
get
every
on that.
time. Yep. Well, hey, you know what? Until they do, because I have not missed out on a comic ever. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So on VB, I'm lucky to get actually the great comics on VB. I'm O for whatever they dropped. I've never got one.
Interesting.
Amazing
Who's
Fantasy 15. It was like 25 grand if you had the secret rare or some shit like that.
wow.
And I clicked that button so fast, man. It was like, nope, too late. And every big drop for VB, because the bots showed up, they took over the drop system, and VB just never took care of it. By the time they did, it was too late. The damage was done.
Ugh. Don't like that.
Yep. But you said it earlier too. We have 2 minutes here, but a lot of these, grassroots companies are going to fail. Unfortunately, I probably put it close to 90%. I honestly, photo finish is probably in the 10%. Well, I know they're in the 10%, but I don't even know if I really put them in that grassroots. But let's say they are. They're
Sure.
in that 10% of who would survive this, right? Um, but I don't know, man. Like,
It's
what?
hard.
Yeah, like, oof. I don't know. I'm blown away, man, as what's taking place here.
Yeah. Very, very high quality production value presentation. Back end seems to be great. I have no complaints right now. None.
Well, that's good. But I was going to ask you that. And actually, if you could do it in 60 seconds, maybe.
All right.
If there was one thing you wanted to change right now about photo finish, what would it be? 'Cause I know everybody has something. I have something.
So the one thing I'm going to say is that I just want more races for my B plus horse that I feel my B plus horse can do well in. But I understand that that's kind of a silly thing to say. There are so many variables that go into it of, grade, distance, track type, all of that. That right now it's not necessarily the most realistic thing, but that's what I'd like to see.
And do you feel like when, because obviously the B population is, small, right? I think when
Right.
you get into like the A minus and the A, that's where you're gonna get your meat and potatoes of the, most of the population, right? So
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I feel like if you kind of hang on to these Bs and these B pluses, even the B minuses that some people are getting rid of for insanely low prices, hang on to them long enough. Don't retire them, and you might be surprised, man, as to how well they might compete when you get some of these other lower horses on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll call this race here for Lacey in
Oh,
chat. Anybody else hanging out? Do appreciate it. Um, all right, ladies and gentlemen, horses are in the gate, and they're up and running here in the Hudson River Club Stakes. Moon Cresta breaks well from down at the rail. Then comes Where's My Sulky? Zeus out there in third in the blue silks, and Satoshi gonna round out top of the leaderboard here. About 4 lengths to catch up from leader early on as this field heads out to shoot and on to the main track in the 7 furlong right turning affair in the dirt. Track is yield and Big Brain Stables up top, one to catch. That's Moon Cresta here at 2.8 to 1. Where's my sulky now off the rail and tries to find some room here, moves up into second. Zeus there in third, then comes Satoshi. No change there, but Satoshi might be looking for early movement here. Opening quarter and 24 and change, modest pace as they head into the turn. It's Where's My Sulky now? Where's My Sulky? Pokes a nose in front, takes the lead by nose. Moon Cresta now just going to sink in down at the rail. Satoshi moves up into third. Zeus drops back to fourth. Now it's Moon Cresta down at the rail, wants to battles back and gallantly takes the lead. Now moves ahead by 2. Where's my sulky? Might have called it a day here early, but half miles come and gone, 48 change, and it's Moon Cresta back up top. Moon Cresta by 3. Where's my sulky now is off the rail. Zeus is there as well. Satoshi in full rain down the 8th pole, but it's Moon Cresta might start doing 360-degree turns here past the 8th pole, as it's going to be hand-ridden to the wire. It's going to be Moon Cresta all day, every day over Zeus and Where's My Sulky. All right.
great call, Mo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I've been so rusty. I've been so busy doing everything else that I'm like, man, when was the last time I practiced? Oh shit. You ever try calling a race?
I'm sure I have back in days when I used to stream another horse game, and it's just it's not I'm not good at it. It's not my thing. Not my thing. I can appreciate it, but I just not within my skill set, not in my wheelhouse.
Why? Always open the door to anybody that comes on. Where if anybody ever wanted to call a race, by all means, you can jump in and call a race.
I feel like
And
if I did,
you
it would
know,
just turn to yelling.
well, some people actually want me to yell more. Some people probably think I'm a little too reserved. But I do have to save some of the hype for the big races too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I can't be at a 10 all the time. I got to I normally sit at like a 6 or a 7.
I get that. I can appreciate that. I like that.
But I've said it since day one. I found the game. I called races a little bit on the straight line game, and I was always like, man, this is just boring. And it was just kind of something where I just never really found a place to do it, And then found photo finish, obviously, and I just kind of started practicing and trying to put together, some different ways to kind of go about it. Again, I've always watched horse racing. I grew up at the track since I was 2 years old. It's not like I had no knowledge of horse racing and terminology and stuff like that. But when it
Mhm.
comes to like rapid fire, like bing bang boom, trying to really just focus on what I'm doing, there's words I try to throw in there just as like placeholder because I'm trying to like reset my brain for the next part of the race,
Sure.
whether it's like a gap or you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
a lot of times it's like the around, you know what I'm saying? I just kind of like drag out the word, you know what I mean?
Just
But
filler
again, I had to
words.
develop these, yeah, fillers, exactly. I had to like develop this little system. But when I did, and then, uh, started doing it, on YouTube and Kick and Twitch, and then Ian and them kind of came across it and they were like, hey, because we had people on from the community early on, and then Ian came onto the stream, and Fib was on, and that's kind of how we formed our initial, relationship. And yeah, I was like,
Right.
man, I felt like within a week or two, someone else would show up and start calling races, and that was like October, and now it's about to hit July, and I'm still waiting for someone to come put me out of a job, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen sooner or later, but
Can't do it.
I hope it's a professional that's like, hey, you know what? I normally call races at Hollywood Park, but I'm gonna go take Mo's job. I'd be okay with that.
Absolutely not. Mo, you are irreplaceable. You aren't going anywhere. We
Well,
can't
I
lose you.
appreciate that. Well, I
It
think,
does. It feels like it really adds to the authenticity that we talked about earlier. It's pretty
yeah,
cool.
and I mean that's a good question for you, and it's not going to offend me either way. Do you feel like if they were able to design, some sort of AI or something to call the races, do you feel like this game needs to have like an announcer? Like if people are watching the races and I'm there calling races, does it really add that much, or do you think most people just kind of watch it and go, eh?
I don't think it would like hit as well because I think it would get stale over time. It gets stale quickly because it's doesn't wouldn't have that human element to it. And I think that's what makes it more exciting, what elevates the experience.
Right. So, for instance, for someone who's isolated all the time and might be playing this game alone,
Mhm.
like for them to just hear just the sound of the horses running around the track, like that could definitely get old. But maybe a group of like a bunch of college dudes, you know what I'm saying, at a frat house that like have it up on the screen and they're constantly like together. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're the ones that are like calling races on their own. And maybe those are the types of
Yeah.
dudes that eventually show up here on, Kick or YouTube or something. Speaking of which, shout out to Chad Ritter in chat. Says yes, it adds. So, I mean, I just wonder sometimes, like I said, I mean,
And I think too
I,
within that you can have so many different styles and presentations and ways
right.
of doing it. Like at the end of the day, yeah, you're calling a race, but you've got your Mo spin on it.
Well, yeah. And that most spin, some days I wonder if it's going to get me canceled on the internet. And I'm like, how many weed jokes can I make on the official third time show before they just kind of hit me up with a cease and desist and be like, you know what? Take our shit off your. We don't want our name on your platform, dude. You are just a liability, right? I'm a brand risk. That's what they call it.
Yeah, but I don't see it. I mean, you talk about it a lot. I've tuned into a few when I can. I haven't heard anything too bad.
I'm trying to get better. Honestly, I'm trying to be better. Like I said, I feel like I'm in the middle of some sort of digital midlife crisis. I'm 41. I'm like in that get off my lawn like state of mind, but and then sometimes I'm like, oh, I got to remember there's different types of people listening. So, it's a little different when I'm in a room one on one,
Sure.
having a conversation with somebody. But I've been trying to, I'm not going to start, taking etiquette classes, but I've been trying to be a little more at least mindful of, that I could potentially be on in a public location, and maybe, if I handle things correctly, different, viewing audiences could potentially reach us. You know what I mean? If I don't drop
Yeah.
F bombs every other word, I don't talk about smoking weed all the time, like whether people like it or hate it, it's just, I don't know. I know people look at it as like a brand risk type of deal.
Sure. I think you also gotta, keep some authenticity as well, though.
Well,
Yeah,
that's where
like
my
balance
sarcasm
like
comes
that.
in.
That's where what comes in?
That's where my sarcasm comes in.
There you go. Perfect.
That's why I always warn people before they come on the show. I'm like, listen, I mean, I know just from going back and forth with you, like, you have a good sense of humor. You could take a joke if I throw it at you. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I know you got a ton you could throw back. Like, you're quick on your feet. But some people, man, I always got to hit them up and say, hey, listen, before we go live, you know, I just want to make sure if I come at you a little bit, you're gonna be all right with it. Most people are like, yeah, but
All good. Gotta inject
all
some
right,
some
two
fun
seconds
into it.
here.
Let's go.
Oh, for sure. All right. Oh, it's Tropical Gypsy Stable there from Chad Ritter. Appreciate you stopping in there over on YouTube. We are over on Kick as well, the main platform, but we do keep an eye on all platforms. And they're up and running here in the China Sea Handicap. Abracadabra breaks well from down low, then comes fighting Orish between horses. Almost caught me off guard there. Then comes Wildcat. And it's Black Hole Sun in the green silks. Then Bitsy Bolt runs along in fifth in front of Jamaica down at the rail. Gonna tuck in tight here for a ground saving trip as they head around the opening turn in this 10 furlong, right turning affair in the turf. Track is soft and smoke is good. Just got done saying wasn't gonna make those comments anymore, but here we are on a Saturday night. Let it rip, Wildcat. Doing just that here up top now, pokes the nose in front. Abracadabra down low. These two gonna battle it out here in front of Black Hole Sun. One of my favorite alternative songs from back in the 90s, really making me feel old. Fighting Irish there now in fourth, Jamaica in fifth, and Bitsy Bolt now trying to find some room and splits horses there from the back. Half mile and 50 and change. Wildcat up top now, shows away by two. Abracadabra down at the rail here, but might have taken a bad step there. Bitsy Bolt on the extreme outside and goes right on by everybody with Fighting Irish. Fighting Irish now from down low. Peeks the nose in front here. Now Bitsy Bolt's in second. Break of 2.5 comes Wildcat. Black Hole Sun still in fourth. No change there. Carrying 7 pounds. Jamaica in fifth. And one-time leader Abracadabra now. Dead last. Might have got distracted by butterflies. Who knows? If we get some time after the race, maybe we'll ask him. It's Fighting Irish, though, as we head around the far turn. We charging ahead here by 3.5 now. Opens up over Bitsy Bolt. Also run along here with the outside. That comes Black Hole Sun as I almost choked on my own spit. Wildcat there in fourth. Abracadabra now back in the game. Off the rail and looking for tail. Jamaica, no game today. It's Bitsy Bolt now as they hit the turn and head for home. Bitsy Bolt shows the way here and pushes to the lead. Bitsy Bolt by 2. Black Hole Sun, won't you come? You wash away the shame. But it's not going to happen today as they skip past the 8th pole. And I was really hoping to finish that song. But it's going to be Bitsy Bolt winning this one over Black Hole Sun and Wildcat. Man, I was really. I started seeing that horse close, and I'm like, oh, let me finish this song. Come on, Rip Chris
You were
Cornell.
so close. So close.
So close. Oh shit! You listen to a lot of Soundgarden stuff
yeah.
growing up?
Yeah, I know the song. I'm familiar.
Oh yeah. Little Soundgarden, little Nirvana. Foo Fighters.
Oh yeah.
Damn. Back when
All the
music was
Foo
music.
Fighters. When Dave Grohl broke his foot or something, and he played the whole concert sitting down in his cast. Wild.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he well, he was an insane drummer for Nirvana. But then to go to frontman like that and then just I mean it's
right.
I don't think I'll ever tell people like, oh my god, like I love like the Foo Fighters are one of my favorite bands of all time. But I'll tell you right now, man, you put on a Foo Fighters song and I'm tapping my foot, I'm rocking out, man. Like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? That it's just, he's a very like musically they're very very bright. Like they understand like the formula to how to write a good song, the build up, the crescendo, right? Like, man, if you like you've heard my music. I mean,
yeah,
my music is very formulaic. It's very like kind of like paint by number type stuff.
mm-hmm.
But it works. I build like that
it.
musical soundtrack, that background music, video game soundtrack type stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
but
just how the genre is.
Well, for synthwave, for sure. Yeah, it's. I actually have quite a few tracks where I've tried to kind of move out of the synthwave vibe. Whether it be changing the timing from like a straight four to the floor type of deal, and it just turned it into like a straight pop track every time. I can't avoid it. It's just everything I do. I'm like, wow, that sounds like Miley Cyrus would be, singing over it, or, sometimes it's a good thing, but
yeah,
I do have my my old man vibe again with the 80s sound. I like to think. Shout out to Tex in chat, by the way. He said, "Let's go." Tex actually got a gifted sub from Valkyrie there. Thanks again, Lacey, for those subs. Really do appreciate the support on the channel. And again, big thanks to you, MJ, man, for taking some time to come hang out.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. This has been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, I mean, contrary to what some people might hear, I am a good time. We were playing like a maybe like a shooter game or something together competitively, and things might get a little heated, a little
All right.
salty, you know. But
Fair though, as they should. As they should.
let me ask you this: as someone, 'cause we've talked about, you know, you in sports before, right?
Mhm.
Like, you know, like there's so one of my things growing up, my dad always had these crazy ass phrases that like stick with me, you know. One was like, you know, be nice to the people you meet on the way up. You're gonna meet the same, you know, mother fluffers on the way down.
Yeah.
Um, I always thought that was funny, you know. But hold on a second. I think I got disconnected.
Oh, I'm still here. We good? Looks
We
like
did.
you're still
Okay, yeah.
live on Kick.
I just got a weird sound on my head. Oh, I think my headphones are dying. Hold on a second, chat. Yep. I was like, my girl's got the charging wire.
Nice. Look at that. Whole full on production team there
Whew.
at the Mono
Well, it's also the
Studios.
same. Yeah, it's also the same charging cable I use for everything else in this room.
There you go.
Okay. But yeah, so we I lost my train of thought again. But
You're talking
like, oh,
about
so we talked about like
phrases.
your sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about your sports stuff, right? And like
Yeah.
big saying around my dad was always like, listen, you either lead, you follow, or you get the hell out of the way. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's no like pussyfooting around. There's no like, you know, trying to like give your input but not being able to take the heat that comes with it type of deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's like a sports thing, because that definitely was
Sure.
instilled in me with my sports background. Like,
Yeah.
and not from my dad, because my dad was actually not a sports guy, but you know, like I had a lot of good coaches. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, my dad got lessons from, and my dad was like a generally smart guy. But yeah, he always said that. He was like, you know, you either lead, you follow, or get the hell out of the way.
Mhm.
And I always find that, you know, I tend to be more of like the leader type. You know
Sure.
what I mean? Where it's like I'm vocal. I try to like put together good ideas, what I think are good ideas. I'm always open to debate, discussion. I prefer a discussion, not like a screaming debate. You know, but I'm always open to discussion as to why you might think this is a good idea, bad idea, you know, vice versa.
Yeah.
But again, like I feel like with sports and then like gaming, it's funny how that overlaps sometimes. Because like in
Oh,
sports, you're like
absolutely.
face to face with people, and you're like, you know what I'm saying? You're picking, like I play hockey. Like, well,
Okay.
I haven't played recently, but you know, a lot of my hockey stuff, you know, it's like I'm a goalie, you know, so it's like people always kind of like rally around the goalie. You know what I mean? I'm like the backstop, I'm the final line of defense, you know.
Yeah.
But it's always the same, even in like gaming. I'm like, well, let's just do this. Let's like make up a game plan. We'll come, we'll bing bang boom, we'll do this. But you got to be able to take the heat that comes with it. You know, you think that's more
Yeah.
of a sports thing? I mean, I feel like that's like 100% a sports thing.
I'm with you on that. Right. It's I like that you said, you kind of come up with like an idea, strategy, plan. I'm the same way. I'm playing Diablo with my friend, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to use this attack. You're going to use this attack. How can we combine our timings and our pacing? How are we going to do mob control? Who's going to go after the big guy? Like, I feel like it just comes from that. Like, that kind of mindset is very much tied with it. And then, like, tying it back to sports of like, okay, if I'm dropping back, where are my reads going to be? How is the defense lining up? Where is the like where's my first option kind of a thing? And how does all
Yeah, your
that
safety
adjust?
valve, safety down in the box,
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying? Eight in
Exactly.
the box type deal, your soft edge
Yeah.
blitz coming on the left hand side, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
See,
you've
I
got to
love
be
when you start
flexible.
talking that with me, man. Oof. Man, you start talking like I read so many good books on like The Art of Quarterback was a great one. It was a
Nice.
Montana's book growing up. Steve Walsh, Steve Walsh. Why am I drawing a freaking blank right now? Yeah, Steve Walsh,
Yes.
right? Niners coach, 80s, right? Why
Oh,
am I? Oh my god, I am like losing my
Joe?
mind right
No.
now.
I'm looking it up. I'm
Oh
cheating.
boy.
Bill Walsh.
Bill, oh my, I said holy shit. I'm just drawing a freaking blank. Yeah, Bill Walsh. His that whole ideology that he came up with like the West Coast offense, and
Hmm.
you know how much money that concept and that West Coast scheme won me in like my Madden career, because I used to travel around and play like professional Madden.
No way.
Like just the idea, like yeah, because what you're talking about, right? Like you understand the core concepts of football. You understand like all you got to do is count. They call it counting hats,
Okay.
or ass on
Sure.
or
Yeah.
hands, or in the run game, it's like, hip on cheek because like the
Yeah.
running back wants to put his hip on like the offensive tackle on an off tackle run to make sure that he can maximize, what I'm saying, his running angle to explode through the hole. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Right.
Like
Right. Yeah.
all these core, to me, they're like core concepts from my years of like, studying this stuff, right? But I feel like, man, the more you can break this stuff down and have core concept understandings, and the point I'm getting at with you, and I think maybe you agree with this, why are we doing this? Why are we taking the time to maximize our Diablo RNG runs? Why are we taking the time
Right.
to maximize our time to throw in Madden, right? Because what's our most valuable commodity in life? I'm curious on your answer on this. What's the most valuable commodity?
Time.
There you go. Most people always answer money. But if you think about it, it's always time, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you
I'm
can't
with
take
you on
back
that
that
for sure.
time.
Right.
Right.
It's
So that's why
constantly
if you're smart,
going.
yeah. That's why I feel like if you're really if you're on that mindset of like, well, if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to half-ass it. Because if I half-ass it, I'm wasting time. So I might as well take the time now, figure shit out, whether it's spreadsheet, whether it's, deep dive into data. And again, just trying to understand core concepts to build upon, which I think is like, what you do with like your website stuff. You know what I mean? You're just trying to build upon these core concepts that other people have come up with or whatever, the case might be. But
Sure.
it's just such a weird rabbit hole to kind of dive down, man. And
Yeah.
it's, when I talk to people with a similar mindset, it always seems to be these conversations that just go on and on and on because I'm always fascinated by, like I said, by other people that are like that. Poker players are another fascinating type of mind, which is why I could talk to Mike Sowers like all day to the point where he's like, dude, I gotta go. Like, he's
I think with that, with that time, there becomes like I just had the word, not a value, because like obviously money has value, but like you get something from that effort. You get a realized outcome, right? Like I could get money, I can lose money, I can go, I can buy something. But if I put time into something, I feel like I grow out of that. There's a much higher potential to like grow, learn something about myself than if I just got a bunch of money and threw it at something and said, "Hey, figure this out." It's just that's all about the journey, not about the destination. And I think that
well,
ties into like
100%.
making use of time and valuing time in a very specific way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You ever see that movie In Time with Justin Timberlake?
I did where they've got it's like on his arm and you pay with
Yep,
time. Yeah.
yep. That's crazy, man. Because I'll tell you, I've always been like, not. Some people might say I'm black pilled sometimes. I'm really not. I try to call it like I see it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just. I like to say I'm a realist. Um, but it's like, oh shit! Shout out to Latuda, to Molando Magic, and MJ, my
Let's
favorite
go.
basketball player and my favorite basketball team.
Love it.
I gotta stop reading. Every time I look over a chat, I lose my damn mind. Um, what the hell was I saying again?
We were talking about the movie with Justin Timberlake. And then you said sometimes people accuse you of being black pilled and you call things how you see it.
Oh yeah. Oh, because I'm always kind of like I said, because I'd rather just cut through the bullshit.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like, listen, that's what I'm saying. Like even like when it comes back to like gaming, like I was saying before, I don't want to like just. Let's say I only have 2 hours to drop into a game. Let's say it's Fortnite. Let's say it's Call of Duty with some buddies, right?
Sure.
I don't just want to drop in and just dick around with no sense of like what the hell are we gonna do?
Right?
You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be like we're in the military and like you take one step out of line and I'm jumping down your throat. Like I want to make sure it's enjoyable, but I still want to have some sort of like working outlying game plan that we could at least be on the same page of like, okay, this is how we want to spend our time of a gaming experience type of deal, right?
I'm
But
one
it's
million
but
percent the
some
same
people don't
way.
like that. But some people don't really appreciate that. It's kind of just like, well, I kind of just show up. I do what I do. I'm a drifter type, person, and like I don't know. To me, I have a little, maybe not in some aspects of my life because I'm about to get a funny look from my girlfriend here in a second. But I feel like mentally, I have a lot of structure.
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah,
not in my
yeah.
day to day,
Right. Yeah,
but
I gotcha.
because I'm all over the place sometimes. But you know, it's I know what I want to do. Basically, you know what I'm saying? Like and sometimes
Yeah.
it hurts feelings. Sometimes it's like because it's kind of like you either get on board or get the hell out of the way type of deal.
Sure.
And it's not to be rude to people, but if you're gonna jump on this journey with me, and you know, like I said to you about coming on, like, and I'll make it public knowledge for anybody hanging out and watching. Thanks again to everybody in the building. You know, MJ is not going to be the weekly host. If I told him he's got outstanding invitation any week if he's available on a Saturday to come hang out and do this again. If I didn't make him think I'm crazy after this show, but if you ever wanted to come and hang out for Saturday at the races, he's more than welcome. But we will be rotating guests if not, and we're just gonna make it work. But I could have just been like, blow smoke up people's ass, and you could have blow smoke up my ass and made it seem like you wanted to do it. But as long as you just lay your cards on the table and people know where you stand, I don't really ever have problems with people like that.
Yeah.
It's in my day to day life. I just noticed that. But the ones that like to play games and beat around the bush, and you never really know what the hell they're thinking. Well, you know what they're really thinking, but they again playing those kind of like those mischievous games. I just don't trust those people.
Yeah, the more effort you have to put into maintaining that, I feel like the less worthwhile it usually ends up being, if not in that moment in the near future. I've
Agreed.
had some
But it's
people
like,
that are like, "Hey, let's stream, let's do this, let's do that," and it's like, "Cool, that's great." Let's start talking details. Let's start talking information, and then it's like silent, and then it's like, "Oh, what are we going to do this?" And it's like, "Well, I'm okay. Where are we at?" And it's
yeah, and
yeah,
target.
I'll just leave it there. Um, you've
Well,
got
because I
to
mean,
it's got to be worth the squeeze for everyone involved.
I agree. The juice does have to be worth the squeeze. And that's maybe a good segue into another discussion I think we could talk about because as someone who's helped other content creators, in other genres, mainly like shooter games and sports games, right? Like, if you're in this game to make money creating content for photo finish right now, and like that's your first initial mindset is like, how am I going to profit on this? Off the bat, you're probably not going to do well here. Like there is going to be struggles. There are going to be, waiting for the people to come in, and we need the players to come in, and the viewers will come in, and then the random people off the street will come in eventually, right?
Yeah,
But it's just, I don't know, man. I feel like we just have to get to that point. What do you think?
yeah. I think it's still super 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 early. I think you've got to be in it for the right reasons, whether you're a content creator, whether you're a player. You just have to be realistic about it. And it's like I'm not streaming or making content for photo finish, swoops, any other project for the money. I'm doing it because I genuinely enjoy the hobby. Um,
Right.
it's it's I love talking about it, and I love learning myself, and I love sharing my learnings and my findings with other people. And if you're just
Yeah.
coming into something looking for a quick buck or popping in, I don't love that.
Well, the reason why I even mentioned it was because, like I said, because I am a believer of like, the juice has to be worth the squeeze,
Yeah,
right? But some people look at it as like, well, my juice has to be made within 30 days.
sure,
Like if
right,
I don't get my juice within 60 days, I'm done, right?
yeah,
But there's a there's this guy I found on YouTube a long time ago, back when I was in a different part of my life, not my best days. Let's put it that way.
okay,
Late at night, and I come across this video, and it's this guy, Reverend T. Day Yakes, right?
okay,
And he's like a preacher, but he did this video, and it's just like all these, like motivational like thoughts and processes and just ways to approach things, like for people that might need some direction at that time in their life. And one of the parts in the video that always struck me the most and struck a chord was like, you can't do things for 7 days and then call it quits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you didn't give it time to get through the early struggle, and you didn't give it time to work out the kinks, and it's like 90 days. If you go 90 days and you don't see any sort of progress, you might want to start thinking about it, reevaluating your plan, maybe shift focus completely away from what you're doing. But again, like to me, that's what the juice is all about. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even with photo finish, I put the juice like 6 months away. Like to
Sure.
me, it's well, I say this as like a week ago when I was profitable or at least even. I've been getting hammered on the track. And yo, it has been so bad for me. What's up, BD Henders in the chat over there? What's going on, man? Dude, I've been getting absolutely hammered. You know what I mean? But it's like
Yeah.
you got to be able, like you said, you got to be able to be in this to have some fun. If you make some money and some friends along the way, great. But we all know, man, if you have horses early on photo finish, and this game continues to do what it's been doing with the guys like Ian and everybody continue to be in charge, who the hell knows what we're going to be sitting on? Like even these horses that are kind of like subpar,
Yeah.
I mean, could easily be pulling in 100, 200 for a foal that might be running bullshit claimers.
Yeah. You never know. You never know how it's going to play out. There's so many complex moving pieces to this. Um, yeah, you don't know. It's exciting. It's early. Early is exciting.
Oh, that's right. We have betting's open on the big race already. I forgot about that.
Ooh,
Oh, I
ooh,
did want to
ooh.
focus on that a little bit today.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said previously, we were kind of geo locked out of the wagering.
Hmm.
So it was always kind of like it was like an afterthought because we both couldn't bet. So it was always like, we started talking about something else, and then like, oh, race time.
Yeah.
But yeah, BD, glad you mentioned that, man. Thank you. Um, so maybe what we're looking at, take a look at the third time championship. Take a look at nice 20-horse field. But maybe in the meantime, just kind of go over what you think. What do you think the floor price is going to be on some of these, let's say Colts foals coming out?
Jeez, I don't.
If people even sell them. I mean, I'm just saying, like, what do you really think they're going to be floored at?
I don't know. I really, I have no idea because it could be the, you know, big, S horses bred together. You get another S colt. It's generation one instead of generation zero. Some differences there, especially with the injury announcement. So you've got some consistency. You factor in the price itself of the actual breed. So what floor price of a breed is if you do it publicly but in stable is what 10-20 bucks was it?
$10, $10, yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think we'll see him sell for that. I think we're going to see an initial high start on prices, and I think they're going to start going down slowly.
Now,
I
do
think
you
they need to
think?
hit an equilibrium. But yeah, I don't have an answer. Sorry, I really don't have a number associated with that in my head.
Well, because I kind of associate it with the kind of like the bottom price of claimers,
Sure,
right? Because as of right now, if you
good
look at
point.
it, what is it, 10K?
Yeah,
10K is the cheapest claimer, right? So if 10K is the cheapest claimer, that's 125 bucks.
yeah,
So I mean, in theory, let's say people just for whatever reason start throwing out these mediocre horses at like 75 bucks as foals. I don't really think they will actually. I think based on the people I've seen in this ecosystem, I think you can have a lot of people. I don't want to say hoarding horses, but you have a lot of people that are just kind of like preparing. You know what I mean?
hmm.
Like again, I think there's a lot of smart people in this platform, man, or on this platform.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I- you know, I mean, like I said, I'm always blown away when I talk to you. With the way your mind works, and then guys like Mike Sowers, and then David. Um, and even hearing, you hear guys like Stens. Like the amount of data he throws out, basically for free.
Yeah,
Um, I don't play in the same category as those guys when it comes to like that level of racing most of the time. But I think it's interesting, man. But I still think the bottom claiming price is going to be what dictates what I think people are going to get away with. Because why would you floor a horse for $75, even if you're making $65 on it, when someone can easily just steal that and start running like bottom of the barrel claimers for stealing pots? Like I don't think this community is going to let that happen. Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they will keep it up to some level for sure.
And we need more claimers. I mean, Fib did say, he is working on it. He said he looked like in Discord he added a bunch.
Nice.
The more claimers, the better, because I didn't get into this, photo finish to put my horses in claimers. I just didn't.
Yeah.
Even half of my colts, I didn't. I didn't buy them to put them in claimers. I bought them because I wanted to, eventually breed out and create bloodlines and create storylines and generations for content and financial reasons. Like I didn't, whatever. Maybe it sounds dumb, but I don't feel like losing my horse like that early on. It's just not the way I want to do it. But I do understand that, when this game gets going along a little bit, sure, bring on some $75 horses, $100 horses that people think suck, but maybe I see something they didn't, and I'm pretty sure you're looking at horses the same way, right? Like you're not going to give, everybody all your tips, but there's got to be some things you're looking at being like, hey, I might have something here.
Yeah, and you got to play the game how you play the game. Everyone's stable financial situations are all different, motives are all different, and yeah, I think just having a strategy is the way to go about it more so than what is the right strategy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And even BD said in chat, it says, I think we may need 5K claimers for newly bred foals. Agreed,
I like
claimers
that.
set the low price. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Do you think the
I mean, it's
generation will have
just.
an impact on price?
Whew. Um, you know what? I guess it really depends. It really depends, I guess, on if and again, websites like yours and the Gap tool, I think, going to kind of really dictate that because if we see these foals coming out running like insane times, even if the ones that are peaking mid and peaking late, but even early in their career, they're like, yo, that horse was just pushing out some crazy early speeds or crazy overall speeds in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then generations are going to just G1s are going to pump. But
Yeah.
if it turns out that like only a small percentage is going to get that genetic boost to kind of be like the breed up type of deal, and then every other horse is kind of like a parallel, maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse in that small window type of range.
Yeah.
It really just depends on it because again, we don't have the data. I mean, we didn't get to breed, in the other uh the final beta, whatever, right? So it's like I don't know, man. I'm real curious because if whoever pays attention to that and figures out that system early on is going to make some serious money. Absolutely.
For sure.
We got three
I'm
minutes
making
till the next
some
race here.
placing some wagers right now. I'm doing some research.
Yeah, what are we looking at? Let me pull something up here. Looking at the challenge Gold Coast Championship or the third time championship.
I'm looking at the third time championship. I can pull up the other one in a few minutes too if you want.
Let's
But
take a look at this one. There's a lot of good horses here, man. Holy crap.
any jumping out to you there?
Well, I'm a sucker for a horse named Malibu. I it's one of my favorite horses I think in the game.
Love it.
The one
Beautiful
horse,
horse. I
yeah,
love
out
the
of
white face.
Soma. Yeah, absolutely love it. It's a filly, I think. Yes. Which, by the way, the collapse all button, like
You
that is
love that.
such a quality of life game because especially for me when I'm trying to like shout out the racers before the race and
Sure.
having to click, 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 click. It's like man, boom, easy. Yeah, Malibu kind of sticks out. It's kind of hard, right? Because it's like this is like the who's who of photo finish.
I
What
like
about you? Who's
not financial
first
advice.
impression?
First
Yeah, not
impression,
financial advice, obviously.
Lolly's Legend is standing out to me. At 10 furlongs RDF track.
Oh god, yeah, that's
Uh
right.
is runs fast and is a very solid performer. And then one horse that I thought was kind of interesting, at least as of a few minutes ago, from a betting perspective. And again, I'm not saying this is going to turn out this way, but Past Your Ass, I thought was very interesting play.
I love that
And
horse.
that was one, it's fun to say. And then
Yes.
two, there weren't many bets placed on that horse at the time. So in my mind, I took it as an opportunity for myself of, hey, the speed isn't bad. It's got a very high win play show percent. It's run a bunch of races comparatively at, RDF 10 furlongs. Um, so I thought that was a really interesting play there.
Yeah. And this is actually awesome, by the way, man. Looking at these pools and seeing liquidity like this, right? Because normally, I don't know about you, and again, I'm not made of money, but I do try to put some wagers in from time to time,
Yeah.
and get a little bit of action when I see the pool and try to help out. Um, or else I feel like I'm a hypocrite. But do you ever find yourself just like, I do it in real horse racing too, right? Like, that this horse is going to win the race. It's won 6 out of its last 7, but then I look at the pick 3 payout and I'm like, well, do I really want to wait? Do I want to risk $6 on a ticket to get back, 9.75 if this comes
Right.
out? No, I don't. I want to play the horse that's 15, 18, 20 to 1, bigger bull, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, are you the same way? Like, even
Yeah.
if you like a horse, you might not just play it just based on the odds alone.
Yeah, I'll make 2 bets at that point. Because
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I can't let it go.
There you
And
go.
it makes no sense, but I can't do it. Um, but yeah, no, I feel like, and I'm no expert gambler by any means or anything like that, but I just think it's all about balancing the what you think is going to happen with that odds. Like, just picking the clear out favorite. If you wanna do that and that's fun for you, go for it. But I think to try and, in theory, hopefully, possibly, maybe give yourself a little bit of an edge, balancing performance and odds, I think, is kind of where it's at. And that was my call on Pasture Ass, or my thoughts on Pasture Ass.
Right. That's kind of what got me thinking. That's why I wanted to ask you, like, is that something that you typically do? Because again, I know for me, I've talked myself out of so many winning tickets, again on the real track where it's like, and I know, but it's like, oh, I didn't want to risk 4 to win 12, even though it's 3 to 1. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, if you do the math on it, I mean, it's decent little flip, decent little profit, but I don't know. But what's nice, I guess my point here was when you start seeing liquidity build up like this, especially in that's power mutual, we're gonna start to see a lot of, bets where, hey, even if there is 2.8K on Lolly's Legend right now, which normally if there was that much, I wouldn't even think about betting on it.
Right.
But hey, take a look around. I mean, there's another 11 point something K of liquidity floating around on the win pool. So, most of it looks like it's going down here on the 20 horse, and yeah, I would say the 14 and the 15. That was Malibu. No, prime time rather. Prime time, yeah. Prime time's another one. Like, is this
Yeah.
like a genetic gene spike where it's like it makes the horse really good? Because all these white face horses, man, they're so good.
Hmm.
Even like the B class ones that I come across, there's a few of them. They just run
Interesting.
different, man. It's like, yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool, though. I like that.
Yeah, and there's a theory in, well, it's in horse racing, but it's, I guess, comes from like regular horse breeding or whatever. Apparently, if you take like a lone gray horse and put it in a pack of like black horses or brown horses, but it's like a lone gray, it tends to want to push to the lead and almost like be the leader because it's like the soul of that color. It's like a herd
Interesting.
mentality. They want to follow. Yeah, it's interesting, really. But you'll
Huh.
see it sometimes in real horse racing where it's like one gray horse in the race, 20 to 1 odds, and you're like, wow, this horse is just dominating right now. And it's like, 'cause he feels like he's got to like kind of show off for his people, for his gray
Right,
horse
right.
people. It's crazy. But it's interesting when you really start thinking about it. Genetics, and then like the mentality of a horse, of a thoroughbred.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I've done some research into it. Nothing. crazy by any means, but just the depth and the discussion and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever want to just turn on like I don't know if you like TVG or FS1, whatever you might watch a horse
Yeah.
race on. Um, Turn it on one day and then just don't bet. And I need people in chat. You don't have to gamble. Just take a look at the horses when they're walking around before the race, right on the track. And if you look at a horse and you see that their head and their neck looks like a chess piece, where it's like really up and arched, and like their chin is like straight down, tucked in, and you see them running just like head down, and their ears are looking nice. Again, don't put money on the horse, but just watch that horse in the race. Because what that horse is
Hmm.
doing prior to the race is he's running by the other horses, showing dominance. He's showing that he is he's like the alpha horse on the track. And when you watch the horses after the race that usually win the races, they look the exact same way. But the difference is some horses can actually turn that on prior to the race. And if you see these horses on the track, my uncle always said it's like a chess piece with the knight, and it's exactly what it looks like. And again, it's crazy how you start to look at these things and like they actually do carry over. Blue Elder's over there in chat on Kick. What's happening? BD shocked. He said even some show bets in the pool. Nice. Yep, that's pretty cool. Latuda said claim is going to be a lot more interesting when we get Gen 1 horses. I can see the ability to snipe a cheap claim and move it up way easier than with Gen 0 because there are no boosts for people to see. That's true. They're going to be
Yeah.
going just based on the parents and performance.
Yeah.
And then the further we get out from Gen 0, the more that performance is going to, performance based is going to become more important.
Absolutely.
Um, Poker players here. What's up, Poker? Says I got my wagers in. Nice, nice. Again, appreciate everybody hanging out over on Kick, over on YouTube. Nobody's over on Twitch, which is hilarious because I have the most followers there. But everybody knows that if you want to be a degenerate here with photo finish, come on over to Kick. This is where we kick it. You get it. But yeah, so we got 4 minutes coming up here before the race, before I make any more lame jokes. Too many dad jokes. I have no children.
Love a good dad joke.
But yeah, man. So what else can we get into here? We got 4 minutes coming up.
Oh,
My girlfriend
just
wanted to say
speaking of
something to me real
races,
quick.
I've got and I teased it on Twitter. If you don't mind me kind of changing direction on you here, just speaking
Oh, absolutely.
to
Yep.
performance, and we had chatted about this briefly, but what impact does direction surface condition have? And the so I basically isolated those variables and said, okay, assuming it's just direction. So you, you have a left preference, you're running in left races. Um, how does that affect things when you run correctly, meaning you run left, versus when you don't run correctly, you run right? How does that affect things in terms of your win play show or your sorry, just your finish percentage? And the difference when you run correctly versus incorrectly, the horses that run correctly run 16.6% lower, or which means better in this case, than horses that are run incorrectly. When you look at surface, that's a 12.4%. And then for condition is 3.3%. Yielding is included in that. When you uh, filter out yielding, it becomes 6.9%. So make sure you're running your horses correctly with right now direction and preference being the two really, really big factors for that.
Absolutely. And by the way, just for full disclosure, I do follow you. Obviously, this is I'm not even
Oh yeah,
logged in.
you're
I
good.
want anybody to be like, oh man, this guy is saying he loves MJ so much. Thanks for coming on the show, MJ. Thanks for being an incredible co-host, MJ. And he's like, let me even follow him on Twitter. What a freaking weirdo. But yeah, you're like I said, man, some of these analytics that we're gonna be, diving into here. And again, the more the time goes on, I think it's gonna be better off for the game. Now you said we had something that we can look at. Can I bring it up on the site maybe?
Oh yeah, go ahead, pull up the site. There's a small. We've technically had two updates that I've put out, but the at the very bottom you'll notice that the finish position and the fleet figure charts. It was two. I combined those into one. So the teal line going across, those are your average fleet figures by distance. And then the red bar, sorry, on the left hand chart, the other chart,
Oh,
the
okay. Sorry,
bars
sorry.
are your finish percent. And why I did finish percent over place is I just feel that makes a lot more sense. You could have a 4 race horse, you could have a 12 race horse. You're targeting, that 8.5 or 8 and whatever to 25% to be, a really, really good finisher, a stronger finisher. And I thought it was
Right.
important from a visual standpoint to overlay the fleet figure with those bars and just to see if there's any sort of correlation or connection there at all. So not necessarily the best example with the horse up there, but again, it's a simpler, you can see, okay, here's my um fleet figures, how those are doing, and then here's how I've been finishing or where I've been finishing within the pack. Who
Yeah,
you
let me
pulling
bring
up
up
there?
probably one of my most disappointing. Actually, I wouldn't say my most disappointing horse, but one of the most confusing tickets. And I know we've talked about this. I think me and you talked about it on the other show, and other people as well.
Yeah.
Whereas the ticket data doesn't match up with, I think, how this horse, hidden genetic is born to run. Like the ticket says you want to be a 2-turn horse, you want to run long, and then the horse genetic says nope, you were born to be a sprinter. You know what I mean? Like, and it's kind of like they're fighting. The stats are fighting against the genes, and it
Interesting.
it makes for a really interesting horse, man.
What's that horse name?
Yeah, this is Joker.
So, going back down to that chart on the bottom, you can see very clearly that as figures pop off, you've got at the end 11 and 12, just how those are your two highest, meaning worst, finish positions there. Interesting.
Right, and you
So,
would figure, right? So for a horse that has, right, doesn't it show the tickets here? Yeah, because
yeah,
this is a 333 302 horse, right? Now you could blame the heart. You could blame the heart, but I feel like if you were going to blame the heart, it would only happen from the way that you know, the white paper or the FAQ says. It would be like, well, it's just going to affect it in bigger fields or against higher class horses. I don't know if I necessarily buy that based on, like I said, what I'm seeing here with a 333 302 horse that just does not want to do anything over 5. And if you look at it on the 5 spectrum on the gap tool, I mean, this horse is running. I'm sorry to show a competitor here.
oh no, no, not at all. I love this website. I think it's great. I nothing against them at all. No, you're absolutely go for it.
No, no, I know. I'm just like, hey, by the way. But I mean, I use it because, like I said, I'm a comparison guy the most. I love
Sure.
comparisons to see where I stand against the pack, right? And I look at Joker, and I'm like, well, again, you look at that ticket, look at it on your site with the the high terrible numbers at the end,
Hmm.
and then look at him here. I mean, at a 5 furlong, he's 37th.
Yep.
I mean, that's with the amount of horses in the
So
game, and that's pretty insane. Like I'm cool with that. Like
yeah. Why?
I'll put him on the track and he's not that good. Like he's just again like maybe that's where the heart comes into play. Also with the ticket stats kind of fighting against each other. You know what I mean?
So here's yeah. I could here's some thoughts for you, and I'll show you. I can kind of walk you through how I'd get to 5 furlongs on my site as well. Um,
Okay.
the the thing that I'm wondering when I look at this is like, yeah, you got those stats across the board, right? What if the rating of the speed is higher than the rating of a finish? But yes, they both have, 3 boosts, but let's say, okay, your horse grade is an A. Hypothetically, I don't know how this works or could play out. But what if your finish is really an A minus, your start is really an A plus?
Oh, I am 100% on board with this. And
Yeah,
did I talk to you about this?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think I really talked to you about this. Because I've had conversations about this, right? So for instance, I had a horse, his name now is Fiery Knight. Okay.
Hmm.
When I owned him, it was Motown. It was an A plus horse. I paid out the ass for him, like 400 at the time, which was out the ass. But uh, actually wound up getting my money back and then a couple bucks. But anyway, long story short, the horse had the most insane speed I've ever seen. All right. And again, he had the 3 and everything, and then when he retired, and this was back in V2 when we got to see the stats, right?
Yeah.
He actually had the S minus speed. So I 100% am on board, and I actually started tracking a ton of horses back then, and it all kind of lined up to almost exactly what you're saying. Where so the best way I'll explain it, maybe this is exactly what we're saying, the same thing. So I'm looking at it where let's say you got a 0, 1, 2, 3 ticket, right?
Yeah.
At that range. But let's say within that range, we have a sliding scale. Let's just use 10 for basic math, okay?
Sure.
So let's say that, it's actually, like I said, like a 5, or like you're saying, like it's an actual 8. So
Yeah.
maybe that 3, it's a 3, 8 level ticket. You know what I'm saying? It's not the
Sure.
same 3 as a 5. So when you start to look at these horses, you're like, okay, so now it makes sense because in theory, if you want to just, put everything in a box, a 3 should always be one rating higher than the horse's grade, right? You could say that 0 would always, let's take an A horse. A 0 would always be A minus. A 1 and a 2 would more than likely be at the same grade,
Hmm.
going parallel. And then like a 3 would be a grade up. And
Sure.
if you want to just, try to make it easy, but I don't think that's how it works. I
Yeah.
think you're
Agreed.
correct. I think you start to put these little sliding, scales of maybe 0 to 10, or knowing them, it's probably 0 to 100. And I think you kind
Sure.
of brushed on that with Ian a little bit. He won't talk about it, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I, I think when you start to take that into consideration, exactly. Why does my A plus horse retire with an S minus speed? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have to be able to figure that out. And like what you're kind of getting at, what if you did that with 2 horses? What if you did that in the generation 1 with another generation 1, or 2 gen zeros even, and then got the gen 1 baby, and that baby now got both of those high sliding scale boosts, and now it's not an S minus, now it's an S.
Yeah.
Because didn't we see that? Didn't we see that in some of the beta too,
And I
where
think
horses
we
were jumping 2 grades?
did. Yes. And Ian even said, I believe he said on the breeding AMA that is in fact possible.
Right. But they won't tell us what the sliding scale is. Like they won't be like, well, it's a scale of 1 to 3, and maybe it's on the high end, maybe it's a mid, maybe it's on the low. I don't really know if it's that basic.
Yeah.
Knowing, just what I've seen from this game and what they've talked about with Horse Race Manager and the other project, like I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a lot more sophisticated than that. But probably more, like I said, on the level that you're talking about, where it's, the scale and this range is really going to affect, what the overall outcome for the stat is, even if you can see that the horse on the ticket has like a 3-3-3-3-0-2 like Joker, you
Yeah.
know? But then I don't know where I'd really put Joker on that scale. Like, the only thing I could really do for that would be, okay, 3, 4 minutes. The only thing I would even think about doing then was say, okay, under that logic, I would say that he has the lowest range possible for stamina. Because his 3 stamina at a low range would probably put him back at an A level stamina, which if he's running against other A horses or getting weight in a handicap, then that's really going to affect him. As
Hmm.
opposed to a B horse or a B plus who's winning a lot of money in handicaps lately, right? They're winning. Why? Because they're probably on the higher range of the stamina boost, and they're just going to dominate because they don't have the weight restriction that the A is getting based on the grade, based on performance, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
That's And that's just looking at my own tickets. Sometimes I look at other people's tickets and their tickets make sense. And sometimes people
Sure.
be like, yo, I tuned into the stream and you ran your mouth about Joker, but here's my 3 horses and they all make sense. And I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm just saying that there are certain outliers on some of these tickets where, yeah, there's definitely some genetics there. And the fact that there is a little bit of a sample size, I think if we take your approach to it and prepare for that type of, outcome, whoever figures it out and cracks that code first, not
Yeah.
fully, no one's going to fully crack it, but
Sure.
whoever jumps on board with it and starts trying to make some, whether it be full buys or, generation 1 buys, man, they're gonna make some serious moves and make some win some big money.
How much time do we have until the next race? I'm going
2
to go on a
minutes.
rant. How
Okay.
long? 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
All right,
Yep.
I'll keep it quick. All right, so let's take all of the graphs out of my website. Pretend they're not there, right? We're not going to look at those at all. We're not going to
Okay.
look at your profit. We're not going to look at your position percent. We're not going to look at win, play, show, any of that. The way I could tell that your horse is not going to be run well at those longer distances is purely because of my speed diff score. So if you look up top at my rating system as of June 2023, above 0.11 signifies a fast horse. And we know that speed affects the short to mid distances. And your horse is crushing it with a 0.13 overall. And if you look at 5 furlongs in general, that's what's really driving that at 0.25. And that is like
Right.
off the charts insanely fast. So when I think about speed and where that's applied to a distance and your speed is insanely fast, it's going to be in those shorter distances. And to me, that's what signifies or is a signifier that it is going to be a shorter run horse. Scrolling down, we obviously see that if you want to start using the charts, you're pretty much up there with your top fleet figures at 5, your 72 average, 75, but that's only on one race at 8 furlongs. So I'd want to see a little more data there. But yeah,
Right.
72 is up there, and it's your lowest finish percent, which is huge. You can also look at then,
True.
taking it all in. Um, like I said, speed was off the chart. Your WPS, win play show percent, was off the chart, and your obviously your profit per race, profit overall is good. Your grade diff rating is kind of how I applied that logic that you were just talking about of like, how do we take boosts and apply them? So I took every single grade of all the horses, assigned a numerical value. Oh, we've got to watch it. Go, go, go. I can talk about this after.
Yep. Well, we're gonna pick that right up here. This is a 4 furlong sprint, but it is a major race. I don't want the bosses yelling me, telling me how to do job. All right, massive 4 horse field here for the Gold Coast Championship, and they're off and racing, and she's the one. Mount's her favorite. One of my favorite movies back in the day. Got out to a quick lead here over Mystic Mountain. Then comes Cossack, and Jupiter rolls out here in fourth. Shout out to Sakas in chat. Sakas, good to see you, buddy. As we head around the first and only turn here in this 4 furlong right turn in sprint on the turf. Opening quarter in 22 and change. No rush yet, but she's the one in Mystic Mountain. Want to duke it out, and it's Monolith Swine. She's the one up top now, pokes her nose in front, and then Mystic Mountain fights back down at the rail. And now it's Mystic Mountain up top. She's the one with one final stride, and Jupiter from out of nowhere is not going to catch him today. It's going to be all Mystic Mountain here, holding on over She's the One and Jupiter. 1, 2, 3. Order of finish.
Quick one.
Easy as 1, 2, 3.
Super quick one.
But yeah, so yeah, I love those quick races.
So my grade diff rating. So you've got a 0.23 in 5 furlongs. So what I did was I basically just said, all the way from SSS plus all the way down to D minus, assign a numerical value. And it's 1 through 21 or whatever that math is. And then I looked at the boosts, and because we know the boosts add on to the grade. So, and I know this isn't how it actually works out, but it's a apples to apples comparison of what you're doing. So what I did was I took those boosts. A boost of 3 will equal a increase of 0.75. So I didn't want to give it that full grade improvement. And again, this isn't how they do it. This is a super, super, super elementary way of applying a just system to this. And all it allows you to do
Oh,
is
this is great.
say that are you running in races where you are higher rated than your competition or not? And so at 5 furlongs, you've done a pretty good job of that. Obviously, there are things like handicaps, restrictions, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to level that playing field out. But just the on
Right.
paper rating, are you running better or not? So you've got the speed, the profit data, the placement data. It's like, yeah, that horse very clearly belongs in those early
Yeah,
races.
and what was interesting too is even like in the I didn't have this. Why I didn't have any horses during beta one. I got it at the tail end. But when beta two was going right, and I had Joker, um, man, like he ran 10. He ran 10, 12 all day. Like, so I know again, it could have just been the roll on, again, what those scales were, where they were applied and shit at the time. But man, yeah, like that horse just ran completely backwards, which is why early in the career, how I clear it, just click on the okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just unclick it. You're good.
Yeah, so like even like early on, you could see like I was going 11, 7, 8, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because I knew like okay, from my previous data of running my beta, that's where I wanted to be, right? Nope, wrong. I was like, well shit, I just I ran 11 and I finished 10th. Then I ran 7 and I finished 5th. And then I ran 8th and I finished 10th. I went back and looked at all three of those races and, early, never made a move, mid, fell back,
yeah.
and then barely did anything, right? So, I mean, that kind of tells you, everything I need to know as far as what my horse is capable of from that range anyway. But
Sure.
yeah, I started, kind of honing in, went 5, and then took a third, and then kind of saw, okay, cool, we shot to the lead here, right? Because like in real horse racing, a jockey is going to handle a horse differently on a two-turn race than he would on a sprint. If you're going, 6 furlongs or 4 furlongs, like way different than if you're going like, 8 furlongs or you're going a mile, right? So
Yeah,
because in a sprint, sometimes they'll get out early and they'll try to hold the lead. Sometimes in a longer race, like my favorite breeds in the world, they all run the same. They get out the gate like shit. They park themselves over on the rail, around the first turn. And on the backstretch or on the first time past the wire, they'll make their little move up. They'll just,
yeah,
save ground down at the rail and they get into position. And then on the final backstretch, you'll see them just come off the rail. And if they're good English Channel horses, into mischief horses, they find that freaking spot on the rail and they come off and then boom on the turn. It's a beautiful thing to watch, man. English Channel horses, good ones on the final turn, are one of the most beautiful things to see in horse racing. And again, it's genetics. Like that's how their bloodline runs.
yeah,
So again, I feel like it's almost similar in this. Okay, we're running a two-turn race. We're going to run this a little bit differently with your horse. We don't really have control of that here on Photo Finish, but I feel like there is something there where when he runs 5, he goes, okay, this is my type of race. I'm a little bit better in the morning line odds. I'm going to get out. And you see in that race, he got out, shot to the lead, and then, took a bad step, as I like to say, and then made another move here at the end. So that's why I kind of started sniffing around 5. And even here at 4, I mean, this dude went from 10th at the mid call and took second.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, firecracker, freaking up his ass when he hit that turn. Like he was flying. I remember that race, And it's cool to see, man. It's just cool to see these different types of dynamics. And just think, man, we're only getting started. How crazy is that, dude?
I
We're
know.
still talking
So
about a
much to
limited
come.
population of horses. We don't know shit about anything right now. We're theory crafting. It's one of my
Yeah,
favorite words out there. You say it quite a bit, like theory crafting, hypothesis. Like just I don't like the word speculation too much, but it's like you know I like to converse about. I guess we're kind of speculating, but you know I like to have some sort of data behind it to back it up.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, man, I think it's gonna be incredible. Again, take a horse like you're talking about with these boosts, match it up with the right Gen Zero horse, give us an insane Gen One baby.
yeah.
Now, what if you took that Gen One baby that's insane and then paired it up with another Gen One that came out the exact same way, and then they somehow pop
Just
off?
keep stacking it. Yeah,
But you know what I'm saying? Like we don't know if that's gonna work. We don't know if genetically that's gonna happen.
right.
But if it does, holy crap, man! Like maybe stacking up on all these Gen One horses or Gen Zero horses wasn't the right move.
Yeah,
I mean, fillies.
you
I
never
feel
know.
like you couldn't go wrong with fillies because you could just breed them and help the population get more horses. Like I don't think there's anything bad there. But
Sure.
every time I go to buy a colt, I'm always like, well, what am I gonna do with him? He's probably gonna wind up in claimers or some shit, right? Like I don't know.
That
But
was
it's just
like,
crazy to think about, man. It's so early.
yeah, my strategy in building out my stable wasn't necessarily grade focused because I know that, I mean, obviously any stat can change over time, but it was really just alignment in preferences and then alignment in like what what's going to potentially stack and what's going to potentially fill in. And I was like super and still am. I mean, I this could change in a week if I decide to breed them. But like I just feel like they're a great fit for each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's again, that's the beauty of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Like
That
it's
could
not
be
like you
so
can only
much.
breed these horses once. Yeah, it's like you have to breed these horses once. You know what I'm saying? You get multiple opportunities. They live till 25, and the age of the horse doesn't affect the breeding potential, which I think is great. I think it
Yeah.
did in horse racing manager. You guys talked about it, but
Yep.
I guess after some more discussion and looking into more research, they discovered that actually it's not affected by that. So I think that was the right move.
I do too.
Poker player said over 40,000 Derby in the wagering pool for third time championship. That's
Love that.
insane. Holy crap! Congratulations. Good job, chat. Good job, PFL community. Peeb, what's up, Peeb?
Peep.
Purple Jesus Juice is here. Everyone's coming for the big race. They didn't want to hear us talk about anything else. They just want to hear the big race. We actually had
Shout
some
out to
really
you.
good chats, and thank you again, MJ,
Yeah. Thank you.
for coming on today, man. This has been a lot of fun. I had a little bit of technical difficulties there. With I thought I was being disconnected from StreamYard because it's new to me, the software.
Handling
But for
it
some
well.
reason, my headset was doing some weird shit today.
Huh.
But we got through it.
Doing well. Holding strong into the final stretch.
Hell yeah, man. And actually, I guess while there's some people here now, tomorrow I was actually contacted from Big Brain Stables and D Stables. Uh, Tomorrow we're gonna start doing what's called. Well, I'm branding it. I don't know what the hell they want to call it, but hey, they asked me to do it, so I'm branding the hell out of it.
Love it.
It's Sunday Showdown, baby. We're
Ooh.
gonna start doing Sunday Showdowns. Apparently, there's a little rivalry brewing up over there where they're gonna both enter two horses against two horses into each race from an hour block. If other people enter the race, that's great. I guess they're going to kind of do their own standings against each other, which is kind of cool. Again, a game within a game. It's almost a sandbox. Build your own little mini games, have your own little contest, right? Like
Love
this is
that.
what it's all about, man. So when they hit me up to do it, I was like, you know what? I'll stream it. I'll call the races. I got you. So yeah, looking forward to that. We'll be doing that tomorrow at 3:45 Eastern, up until 5 o'clock. I think is the last race. So
Very cool.
oh yeah, BD said he liked the chat we had. Appreciate that, BD. I know you were here hanging on
Thank you,
YouTube.
BD.
Yeah, so the showdown tomorrow, BD, is D Stables and Big Brain Stables. They're gonna go head to head. 7 races. And yeah, we got the big race coming up here. Let's get to it. Oh, wait a second. Did this rug? Oh.
Here we
Oh,
go.
I was gonna say.
Here we go.
Thanks for the 40,000 derby. Let's rug the race. All right. Boys and girls, degenerates of all ages, this is what you've all come to the show for. 20 horse field, third time championship, grade 1 action coming at you. And they're racing here. It's Northern Lights. Look at that list of horses. Beautiful sight. Northern Lights up top now with Prime Time. Then comes Astro Nerd on the extreme outside. Big Nose Kate's there as well at a Tombstone Stables. Shout out Mike Sowers. Bell trots along here in 5th. And Lucy May going to get out in 6th as they come past the clubhouse here for the first time. Almost thought this was a 4 furlong affair, but it is not. Jokes on me. Past the clubhouse here past the wire for the first time, opening quarter in 24 and change. No hurry here. They know they got to go around again. But it's Big Nose Kate using that big old schnoz to take the lead. Then comes Northern Lights on the outside. Lucy May there from the 19 hole. Bell trots up along here, moves up into second all the way from the back real quick. Up in 4th, that's Lowly's Legend. Now passed on the outside by Matriarch. Night Saturn there, going to round out top leaderboard at 100 to 1. Nobody's giving him a shot, but he's giving it all. He's Galt Captain, half mile and 49 and change. Big Nose Kate is toying with the competition. Mike Sowers might be sitting at a poker table. Big Nose Kate's trying a job of her own here. She's trying to make some money while Daddy's away. And Big Nose Kate still shows the way here by 3. Another break here on the outside. Matriarch there moves up into second. Bell along in the third. Lowly Legend there, still fourth. No change. Here comes Past Your Ass. Passer and everybody. Past Your Ass now all the way up into second. Not messing around. 3/4 and 114. You know what that means, chat? We are into the final turn. This is what you come for. They call it the money shot, depending what kind of movie you're watching. Big Nose Kate, though, around the far turn. Big Nose Kate by 3. Still no competition. Bell's there, past your ass in third, now moves up yet again. Lowly Legend, they hit the turn and head for home. Oh, now, oh, Nelly. Down the center of the track, it's past your ass and Bell, but it's past your ass. It's going right past Big Nose Kate. Might have jinxed it. Sorry, Mike. It's past your ass now, past the 8th pole, holding off Bell and Lowly Legend. It's going to be past your ass, going straight past everybody in the third time championship. Congratulations, Miami Nation, over Bell and Lowly's Legend. And sheesh. And congratulations to you. Did you put money on
On Past Your Ass, the horse I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
That was the bet one. That was the one that I talked about.
Yes, I know.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Wow. I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling it right now, chat. Woo.
Wow. Handicapping at its finest. Good job, man. Well played.
Thank you.
Ooh. Yeah, okay, so first of all, that was a good pick on your part. Second of all, hell of a race.
Oh yeah. 20 horses.
First of all, 20 horses. That's insane. Wow. And like I said, man, this is like some of the who's who of photo finish right now, and it's crazy because that's just RDF. It's insane. Massive wagering pool. I actually clicked on my wagers before and I never actually locked it in.
Oh no.
Well, I was not helping the community today. But I was gonna go against you just because again I'm like that guy who always goes, I'm just gonna play my own bet.
Sure.
But take notice, chat. This is why I am not the wagering guru. Don't ever come here. Don't ever listen to me looking for financial advice with gambling on photo finish. If you want to call a horse race, I can maybe start doing lessons on that. But yeah, Pass Your Ass is the winner out of Miami Nation. Love this horse for a couple of reasons. We talked about it. One, the name, brilliant. Second of all, the silks. Miami Nation love the Miami 80s vibes with the orange and the blue. I kind of go with the blue and the pink and the black type of scheme, but same family of color. But yeah, and you could tell, man, look at this. 2 horses in the barn.
Wow. Love that.
2 horses in the barn. And like Jack said too, favorite was nowhere to be seen. There's a reason why favorite only wins like 32 or 33% of the time in real horse racing. If you bet the favorite, every day, all day, every day, you're probably gonna have a rough life in the gambling scene. But if you can pick out little nuances of horses or nuances of a type of race, and you can kind of hone in on that. Again, proof is in the pudding. MJ did it, live in front of you. I mean,
I've got a little update on that, Mo. I just checked my wagers. I ended up placing 3 bets. Past Your Ass. So that returned 201 for me. I bet Matriarch just because. I bet on Matriarch the other week, but didn't get anything out of it. I like that horse. But then I also bet on Lowly's Legend. So I am plus 220 right now off of that race.
And you do mean 220,000 Derby, right?
Yeah, exactly. Million Derby.
Okay. Yeah, 220 million Derby. We don't mess around here, chat. We're heavy wagerers now. We're big balling here in the Derby game. No, but hey, that's good though, man.
3.
Listen,
positive.
2 for 3. Exactly. So all you can do, man. You got to play the numbers game. You got to understand you're not going to win them all. Maybe that's something we can kind of wrap up on because I'm not going to call anybody out in particular, and I never will. But I just want to kind of talk about the state of the game, and I figure who better than with you, before we head out. The one thing I don't like to see is when people come into the game, and it's like, they pick up a horse, and you see them race it, they misrace it, and maybe they don't jump in Discord, maybe they do. I try to help, people at least get them in the right direction. But like, yeah, you have any words of wisdom, or what's the best advice you give people that are either A, coming in brand new, or B, that just came in, made a bad decision, maybe kind of how you talked about with your wallet drain earlier, you kind of bounce back, trying to play the comeback game like Jordan. Um, like what's the best advice you can give to somebody maybe who's not having the best time right now financially, or maybe even enjoyment wise on photo finish?
Take it slow. Use the gap tool, use my tool. They're not going to give you a silver bullet answer, but they can use even the stats on the site. Check it out, see where you think there could be an edge. If something you're doing isn't working, what could you change up? What looks a little different? I flip through random just horses on there just to check on my site, just to kind of see where things are at. And I'll see some horses that are run at, 4, 6, 7, 9, 12, almost, like evenly across the board. And it's like, oh no. Like clearly there's one or two distances that stand out a little bit. Maybe they're not profitable or super profitable, but take your time, think about what you're doing, why you're doing it. Are you chasing anything? And maybe just reevaluate. Talk to people in Discord. Talk to people on Twitter. My DMs are open if we're following each other. Would love to, talk in depth, even do like a horse review for someone, stable review even.
Yeah, and that's something, again, I think people like me and you, I thought about doing it. I know you have the across the board. By the way, guys, I'm just gonna post this again. Oh, I did have a fancy message. I guess I tried to copy this from other thing. Make sure you guys follow MJ, guys, over on Twitter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, really awesome guy. This is now twice in the past, I don't know, 10 days. He's taken quite a bit of time out of his own schedule to come hang out with me and talk photo finish. And chat's got some good stuff in the chat too. Of course, chat has good stuff in the chat. Where else would it be?
Always.
But yeah, what I'm saying, like, it's always good for the advice, because I know a lot of people may just tune into this, haphazardly, and maybe it's the only part that they see. But join the Discord. It's important. Ask questions. I'm a huge believer there's no such thing as dumb questions, only dumb people.
For sure.
They're not supposed to call people dumb in 2023, but I'm sorry. I still love you. But again, jump into Discord, ask questions. Also understand that variance is a thing.
Yes.
Again, in horse racing,
Huge.
favorites do not always win. Just because you put a horse at the distance you are 100% sure he likes, and he runs it like crap twice, might take 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times a lady, and you might just have to, again, continue to run that race and try to complete the variance part to see exactly where you sit. Because some people might sell a horse who's their third race, they pop a speed figure that's off the chart, and they were just warming up. You know what I'm saying? Those other 2 races, they were just warming up, and then someone got a bargain because someone didn't realize, again, just taking the time, talk to people. And I hope people in Discord will always do right by the people reaching out. Most of the time,
Yeah.
actually all the time they do. I've never seen anybody trying to, like, pull something off somebody. Like, if anything, it's been the opposite. People come to bat when people had wallets drained, or a couple scammers got into people's DMs, and the community came to bat, man. Took care of people with funds, horses, and get them back on the track. And I mean, that's crazy, right? So again, just trying to throw out all these things. Join the Discord, ask questions. Latuda said, read everything third time's put out. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Jack said, yes, ask as many questions as possible. That's what Sakis said. Smart guy. Pastor S didn't even bet on his own horse. Well, hey, you live and you learn. But yeah, the one thing I will say on top of that too is, use these. I'm gonna start calling it the ultimate trifecta. All right, you've convinced me after this stream. I don't want to hold you too long. You good for another 5-10 minutes? Or?
Yeah, easy for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the way I'm telling people right now is, if you are feeling like you need some data on your horses, go into your horses, go into the charts, pull these up. All right, now this is my horse in the trouble. Not the greatest horse. I'm sorry, it is what it is. He's got some, mediocre racing. Don't really know if this is where he's going to peak. We'll see. Um, but anyway, I would use this. I would cross-reference it with the gap tool um, from Gavone and Podrick. Like I said, and then the ultimate trifecta. Like I said, I'm going to say, seeing what I've seen and having it explained to me, is the grade difference rating. Seeing this real time and having it explained to me, knowing how Joker runs, now this 100% makes sense. But again, maybe that's on me because I didn't ask questions. I'm a little set in my ways. I'm 41. I tend to do things the way I do it, and I kind of get into a rhythm. And until someone, like MJ can break me out of that rhythm, I just kind of coast along. And I got so used to, that other site that we no longer have. And, I kind of got used to that little bit of a metric of a comparison that made my life very easy. But you know what? Now we have three of them. So again, use these three tools, pair them all together. Again, they're all great. Again, I'm gonna post this link here again for MJ's stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Again, absolutely. Follow him on Twitter. Jump over to his Twitch. Follow him there as well. Across the board. Awesome show name, by the way.
Thank you.
Love that. I started doing a thing called Wire to Wire, thinking it was like another, funny play on words. I was like, I'll do a daily show where, the chat will or community will send me the top 5 races every day and kind of vote on them.
Sure.
And I'll do like the race calls and then post them every night at 10 p.m. when the card closes for the day.
Oh, cool.
But I did learn very quickly that trying to do that on a daily basis with community support, when I don't always get, a lot of videos coming in, I'm like, well, now I got to spend hours of my day like watching all these races, being like, what do I think is the best race of the day?
That's tough.
So I kind of hope we get to a world. Yeah, I kind of hope we get to a world where my DMs are overflowing with people being like, "Hey Mo, check out this race. Hey Mo, this was my first horse that I ever, had a win. This is, the horse's first win or whatever. It really meant a lot. Me and my kid own this horse together. Something like that. Something that we can just, kind of showcase on a daily basis." So again, if you're watching, listening, send me those races. If I get 3 to 5 a day, I will make those videos every single night. But I just don't have the brain, the mental capacity right now, I guess, to kind of do that on top of everything else. But yeah, so definitely use these sites. Don't get discouraged. Talk to people in Discord. Again, MJ is great. There's so many great people. I always hate just picking people out of, and pointing them out. But there's so many good ones. But you guys know, just jump in Discord. You'll get some help. Shout out to Raven, by the way. Sorry, Raven. I think I missed you earlier. I know she's hanging out over there in Kick. He was a Twitch watcher for a while, and we had to kind of work that out of her. But now she's over on Kick, so we appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, outside of across the board, again, they tell people when they can find that. Anything else that you got going on as well, if you want to shout it out here.
Yeah, that's Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Although this week it will be on Wednesday night, just because I have a conflict one Tuesday night a month. So this will be, June 28th, 7 p.m. Central. We'll be doing some horse discussions, horse reviews. We'll be releasing some new nuggets. Want to drop too. We forgot to mention this, but there's now a date slider on my website as well. That you can kind of filter out your races. So if you want to kind of look at your horse's performance over a period of time, you can do that. And find me on Twitter. Just look for MJ Gaming.
This is nice too. Because as we kind of learn with photo finish, right? Like the less clicking around and the less expansion and this and that, you know what I'm saying? The better. So yeah, having this right here on the page, boom. And this might not be useful to people now, but think of it for future case use and trying to figure out, future generation. Are they early peakers? Are they late peakers? Right? There's so many different things that we're going to be looking at where time frames are going to become, almost of the essence. I guess one more thing I might ask you real quick, if you want to take a minute. I want to see if chat had any final questions for you.
Sure.
When it comes to getting rid of the graded system, because we didn't really talk about this. I know a lot of people have been proponents of like the kind of like the Australian handicapping type system. I think I know I'm with Doughboy. I'm more of the American, non-winners of two, non-winners of three type of
Sure.
racing funnel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever really heard me talk about it, but a
No.
lot of times what people tell me is like, okay, so basically you race. I might be able to just pull this up while I start to explain it. But basically, as you're racing, you're moving up, the ranks, right? So you start off in your maiden, and like every horse in the game is now racing along the maiden, right? But then
Yeah.
when they win, now they're moving up to the next level. So what happens is you get these horses that are running like the non-winners of two lifetime now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have
But
talked
people can
about
also
this.
skip that. Yeah,
Sure.
but people can also skip that and go right up to a stakes race, right?
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people tell me is they're like, well, they can just park the horse for 30 days and then come back down and then beat up on like a weak field. You know what I mean? Which it does make sense, but from a cost, what's the word I'm looking for here? Cost efficiency.
Mhm.
Um, you'd make more money if that really is that good of a horse, just come down and dominate whenever the hell it wants. You
Right.
probably make just as more money if you went up to your graded races, your stakes race, like basically follow the progression system. If you want to stunt the growth of the horse, you can, right? Like that's something that people can obviously do.
Right.
But I don't
Take
know, man.
advantage of it.
I just feel like, I just feel like you're not really hurting the ecosystem by saying, okay, you won your first race. Now you're going to run non-winners of two. You won two. Now you're going to be non-winners of three. But then there's going to be other stipulations. Like I said, come back down, maybe non-winners of 30 days or call the season because our seasons
Uh,
are roughly 30 days.
yeah. I like that. I like that
Like,
time banding on it a lot.
well, right, because it creates more funnels. It creates like more racing funnels. You know what I'm saying? Like, because obviously real horses don't have, you know, grades,
Yeah.
but real horses also don't have stat floors.
Sure.
So,
Right.
because in this game, if you took a B and raced it at 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, doesn't matter what the furlong distance is. If you race it point blank in a restricted race with no handicap, no weight, anything,
Right.
the B has no shot.
You're done. Yeah.
The B never has a shot because even the worst of the worst of the worst of that S horse, and probably even like an A horse, is going to be, what I'm saying, that floor level of the stat is going to be so much higher than even the best of the B. The only time it really does start to come into play is when you put them in a handicap.
Yep.
Like that's when it makes sense because in a handicap, they're getting weighed down and right. So it's like, does that type of racing funnel, first of all, does it sound like it would make sense or does it sound like it would be enjoyable? Because I've had people being like, yeah, like that's how we need to go. And other people just like, it just seems like people are going to take advantage of it. Again, if I break it down, when people take advantage of it, they're only hurting themselves. So I don't really see how it's taking advantage.
Yeah. I guess it comes down to I wonder how the frequency of racing plays into that equation because if you can just spam races all day over and over and over again, I would just, like let's say I've got an hour to play a day, I would pop in and I would spam the races I know I could win, like a step down. But if I got one race, I would think I would want to make the most of it. I would think I would be kind of deterred. But yeah, I like that the banding of it as well, like the timing that you mentioned earlier. I don't know. I'm for it. I'm for it.
Yeah, well, like I said, you don't just get the one shot at it though. Like you get the one shot at it if you want to try to, manipulate the system. But then that means, like I said, that means you have to park your horse on the bench for 30 days. But if
Yeah.
you take these horses that are typically running, you know, even like A level, like restricted stakes races and take, go up from there, even those horses that are there, I feel like some of these owners are so cocky with them that they're not going to park them on the bench because they're just winning. Like you watch them on the horse and you take the crown stimmy on top of it. People are not going to park their horses. So that's what I'm saying, man. Like, I don't know. I had a good little diagram somewhere, but
It's
I can't really seem
tough.
to find it right now. It was just like a little doodle that I drew up on stream one day. And like I said, it was just a bunch of boxes kind of linking, showing the progression of the funnel. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I've seen that. I know I've seen that. Um
yeah, it might have been on, like I said, that show with the with you where I was even looking at it. But
Yeah.
it's just I don't know, man. I feel like if we go to like a pure handicap system, and because whether we like it or not, all hell's gonna break loose. When they try to remove the grade system, it's just gonna be like, well, all right, here we go, and then
Yeah, like, that's scary for exactly the reasons you outlined. Like, what if you inadvertently throw a B into it all S race or an all A race? Like, that's just not gonna be fun for you
yeah.
at all.
And how the hell would you know? Like, would
Right,
you know
exactly.
because like how would you know because your horse is rated? Like your horse has just been getting lucky and kicking ass in certain races that it just happened to, find itself in a rating with S class horses. And then what happens there? You basically it's like hitting like a ceiling, and you're just gonna slam your head against the ceiling over and over again, knowing you can't beat those S horses until
Right.
until you basically slide down in level, whether it be rating points or however they decide to do it. And again, we've seen other games that run in a straight line try, point based rating systems and this and that, and they're on their like fourth attempt at trying to fix shit.
Yeah,
And if we start going down that road, well, we're gonna be in trouble here, right?
big
So,
trouble.
I, yeah, that's why I really think if you want to be as real as it gets, you either mirror again like the Australian handicap system, which is pure like a weighting based system.
Okay.
But I prefer if we went down, like I said, American based, non-winners of two. Maybe if you want to kind of have variations, have like non-winners of 50K Derby lifetime, non-winners of 20K, 30 days. Like find other little scenarios for horses to run. Maybe if they
Yeah.
can't find a race, but again, if you just keep making sure that horses have to either progress or run parallel, they will never be able to come back down and beat up on weaker horses. That's why the argument of like parking a horse on the bench, if he's an A plus or an S minus, you're not going to park him on the bench when you could be running those restricted races. And if you're dominating at that allowance level with the weight against you, it's just gonna help you at the higher level too. It's
Sure.
I don't know. Like I said, I've only heard a few people
I
really against it. That's why when Doughboy last night was like, "Hey," he's like, "Yeah, no," he's like, "If we move to a non-winners, type restricted, lifestyle or lifetime based race progression, it'll be
yeah.
the best thing for us." You know, um, I mean, have you ever looked at like a handicap, like a past, like a post the PP, whatever past performance, like an Equibase chart, or we have different ones here in New York. That's why I was like, I don't know what the hell you guys call them. For
I
us, they're
don't
just
think so,
like
no.
OTB books. Yeah,
Oh, what?
like
Yeah. Yeah, 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 I've seen those, I've seen those.
yeah. So if you like look at a race and it's like they'll say something like NW3L 30,000. Yeah, so like this right here, right? It says AOC. Sorry, Chad, I triggered anybody. AOC 4,000. With a tag NW2 slash X, right? So most people look at this now like this is like look at it trying to read Chinese or something, right? But it's allowance, optional claimer for 4,000 with a tag, non-winners of two lifetime. The X sometimes varies. Sometimes it's like S is usually state bred. Usually with the C here, it'll show that the horse was claimed, stuff like that. But again, you start looking at like you know stuff like this, and you can see, man, how it just works on a day-to-day basis in the real world. And that's
Yeah.
why I really beg people to like put together a well thought out 5 minute video or something just telling me this doesn't work. Because Doughboy, I know, was 100% on board with it. And I feel like if this is the way they go, man, again, the team behind it, a good progression system, people like you in the game, people like me calling races, the other content creators we got out there too, man. Like, I don't know. I just think the sky's the limit. So,
Yeah,
but I'm just
it's
curious if you ever kind of looked at these type of sheets.
I worry about hyper segmentation. I haven't looked at sheet like I've seen that. It was Chinese to me in that moment. I had no idea what I was looking at. But I have seen that. Um, yeah, my concern would just, I guess, be hyper segmentation. Are there enough horses to run enough races at enough distances? to fill everything.
Okay, you're 100%. You're 100% right. And
Yeah,
maybe I should have. I usually do preface when I'm running my mouth to bat on stream. I always preface it with this. This is not a now solution.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm with you
This
on
is
that.
Biden, because the only thing that's going to fix our biggest issue with photo finish, and I've said it since day one, when people started saying, well, this isn't working and that's not working and we need this. And the only thing that's going to fix our problems, if we even have any problems, is the same most valuable commodity that we spoke about earlier in the show, is time.
Yeah,
Time will fix everything with photo finish, because as time goes on, we will have more data. We will have more, input from the community. And again, with the data in hand, the team will be able to make, educated decisions on which route they want to go, what's making them money, what makes sense, what doesn't, right? Like, you can't do that 2 weeks in, because again, you don't give it that 90-day test. You don't
right.
try out what you really thought. If you're so adamant and Ian put all that time and money and effort and the whole team behind us, and you don't put more than 2 weeks into your initial vision, well, it wasn't that good of an initial vision,
Yeah,
right? So again, this is where the 90-day test comes into play. Um, so I feel like time is going to be the only thing that will fix any remote issues that this game has. Because again, 90 days goes by, we can start implementing non-winners of 230 days, non-winners of X
yeah,
amount of money in the past 30 days, right? So you can't do that right now because, like you said, you will hypersegment the entire population to the
yeah,
point where nobody's racing, right? So I agree with that. 6 months down the road, I don't think that excuse would really, not an excuse, sorry. I don't even think that argument would be valid.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I think we would have the horses, and we
Sure.
will start to see these horses almost create their own racing funnels the same way they do in real life, where bloodlines work their way into the thoroughbred funnel. And sometimes you get a dud. Like my favorite horse is Into Mischief. It costs 250K if you want to breed with that horse in real life.
Jeez.
But guess what? Sometimes you're going to get a dud out of them.
Yeah.
Breeds with the wrong horse, the bloodline doesn't take, and you see him running at a shithole down at Delta Downs for a $5,000 claimer. Remember, I just told you that horse costs $250,000 to get a breed.
And
You know what I
then
mean?
whoop.
So, yep. But again, it's not common. These people probably hope that they have 2 or 3 other horses from Into Mischief that is, running in the derbies and running, graded races, right? So,
Sure.
I don't know, man. Like I said, time is what we need. So time is on your side, right? Like it's true, man. Like
Yeah,
we are in a good
time.
spot. We are in a very good spot.
It's an exciting time. Speaking of time, yeah, we need. I mean, just time,
Yeah, we are gonna
people,
break out of here in a
horses.
minute. Yep.
Yeah, sure. It's just it's all those sliders, like they all kind of move together. Like you said, you wouldn't implement this now, but you've got to like, okay, when is the right time, pun intended, to implement that? What is that?
Right.
What is the state of the ecosystem that would call that in? I think the system works. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally, between this system moving over to a heavy claimer based ecosystem, you know what I'm saying, for the horses that just instead of parking them on the marketplace, it's like, hey, let me run them. I talked about it again last night. Let's run them for that $50 claimer. Even though, again, some people might not like that because now you're bringing down the overall floor value of the horses if the claimers are going to dictate the lowest floor, right? So
Sure.
that might not be a very, popular decision.
Yeah.
But at least if you kept the claimers reasonable, right, then, I think it'll be all right. But yeah, man, we get a couple batches of foals. I'm thinking like 6 months. I mean, you said you were thinking more what into like November, right?
I was my initial thought was like September, late
Oh, September.
September.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So my initial calculation was late September, early October, because
Yeah.
I figured that's when we'll start to see you know the second batch or whatever of the new foals come into play. And maybe the one final question I'll ask you before we do head out of here:
Sure.
since we had the extra week thrown on for this season,
Mhm.
how open would you be, or maybe if anybody's still in chat, if they announce next season is only 3 weeks?
I'm okay with that, I think.
I'm all
Yeah.
about it. Like, I actually prefer they do it. Like, they're like, listen, we had the extended week, to try to get ready. So now we're going to shave off a week there, which actually helps us out twofold because that gave us the extra week of racing before into the breed. and now we shave off the week of the next month. So now those, you know what I'm saying, we get to the next breeding season quicker, and the next babies are going to be born quicker, which actually, if you did that 2 months in a row, you could actually hit your mark of late September, mid September of the horse population that I'm thinking of in October. So you could
Yeah.
actually shave off almost 3 weeks by doing that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I'm trying to think right
Now,
now, like, it's question for another time, but I'm just trying to, I guess, process what else, what could be the downside of doing that?
the
I
downside
don't
of
know.
doing that is people that don't retire their horses would argue that, because I love playing devil's advocate even with myself. I'll talk to
Sure.
myself sometimes. You know, I mean, I guess your argument against that is the people that decided to not retire their horses to continue to race and try to earn crown would now be, I guess you could say, gypped out of a month. You know what I'm saying? Or a week rather,
Yeah.
because they thought they were not retiring based on the fact that we have 4 week seasons, right? So like that would probably, and I hope I just didn't actually give somebody that argument. Oh crap. You know what I'm saying? But like, I guess you could say like they planned for the 4 weeks of like everybody retired, so now they're gonna be pissed type of deal, you know?
Yeah. I I can kind of see that, kind of not. At most, that's 7 races.
Yeah, at most,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I don't
know.
know
But
if I
it's
buy it. I
like,
don't know if I buy it.
no, I'm just saying, for me personally, and I have no problem being 100% transparent on what I'm doing here coming up. Um, every filly is getting retired, every single
Hmm.
one of them. My colts are not getting retired. I'm sorry. I think I have one colt that I've had two people reach out to me about breeding with, weekend moderator. But honestly, that's the only horse that I actually feel confident even putting in races. And the fact that I'm going to need like 300 plus every month to freaking breed, because I'm not
Yeah.
breeding with my own colts because they're not that great. I kind of planned it out that way to go better females and to just have my colts to be able to race and, you know, have some fun, right? Claimers or whatnot, sprints. So
Sure.
I'm retiring. Like I said, all fillies are getting retired. Colts are going to stay on the track, you know. So for someone like me, even someone like me who could potentially game the system better, you know, if they did go 4 weeks of a season,
Right.
I would still be on board for 3 week season.
Yeah.
Like shave off the week and whatever. If all my horses get a couple less races in, then so be it. You know, I just think it's better to get these foals on the track and multiply the numbers as quickly as we possibly can. That's all.
Yeah. I'm for you with on that. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. And Latuda even said, you know, he'd like to see the week shaved off of season 5 though, and not 4. So I mean that. All right, I'd still buy that. Again, a week is
Sure.
a week. You know, that's 1 week quicker of, you know, more foals, and another week quicker of getting into breeding again and getting these horses for the people at the casino to come in, for the people at the OTBs to come in. We need the more people in crypto to come in, but they're not going to come in right now because we're not promoting it. We're not
Yeah.
promoting it because there's not enough horses.
Sure.
There's not enough horses because that's just the way it goes. Like,
Yeah.
again,
Got
we
to start
can't
somewhere.
do anything. Yeah, you have to start somewhere. But as long as people like MJ, myself, Doughboy, 'cause he was very, very, you know, brutally honest last night, and I agree with, again, like 99.9% of stuff comes out of his mouth. You know, like, gonna be dark days of racing. There's gonna be hard
Yeah.
times ahead. As long as we understand we're on the same page, just be chill. Let's be civil. Let's you know, let's race some horses. Let's get some claimers going. Let's have a good time. And the more fun we have, the quicker these 60 days are gonna go. And
Absolutely.
that's pretty much how I'll wrap it up there. MJ, you got any final words for the crowd who might have stuck around for our final rants?
Thank you, chat. Everyone who tuned in. Thank you, Mo. Appreciate the time tonight. This was a lot of fun. I
Absolutely.
enjoyed
Yeah, man.
watching the races, talking about everything from wagering to performance to collectibles. I thought that was a lot of fun. So yeah, keep up the
I
great
love
work,
it.
man. I love it. You've got some great shows.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Again, chat, make sure you follow this man. Again, probably, again, I hate to say it, but it's like, man, there's so many of you guys that like I talk to. It's like, it's so enlightening to me every time. I love it. So thank you so much again for coming on. We will definitely be chatting. Open invitation, come back any Saturday you want. And yeah, man, chat. We will talk to you guys soon. Be nice to one another. Dark days are coming, but we love you. And I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.